Yeah, I think we were just about started here. Just need to pray to everything that's holy that the game's stable. Come on.
Speak to me, head GC or any of the sports GCs with the SGC tag along their name.
We're stable.
And yeah, you guys can
Knocking
go
on the
down to
wood.
your RP channels. Remember, stay in RP and have fun, everyone.
When we get in late game like this for any of the Paradox games in multiplayer, oh man, I'm always so on edge to see if we actually can load it, because it can be very sketchy. What's up, guys? How's it going? I8 Minzity, and what's up, Larry the Fish? Hope you all are doing good. And also, thank you for the follow, I8 Minzity. Hope I'm saying that right. Okay. Get all my settings right here. So, just a heads up, we have 4 hours of Victory RP today, after which I am starting a new Millennium Dawn campaign, which will be North Korea. That's single player. So we'll do that this evening. We are about to have a confluence in Barcelona to deal with potentially, or discuss what to do about the radicalism. Sure, I'm actually in. I am. Okay. So, we are in a very good position. The map do be looking, yeah, it looks weird, Limpari. Oh, God. Your Hoi force coming out very strong. Must have perfect borders. We're historic borders. But yeah, Austria blowing up did make Europe look pretty fucking ugly, I will say. We had to just, you know, someone hit the Austrian pinata hard enough that it just exploded. So we're in a really good position right now. Just a reminder, we still do have a very conservative government under King Alfonso. The only reason I have done no reforms is due to how, like, traditionalist he is. He's cautious. He really wants to hold the old system in place, and he can really do the fact that he's so popular. I mean, ish. And he's a very, very good political operator and criminal operator. So he's doing a good enough job. People, they question him all the time, but not to his face, and no one does anything, because he does run a solid country for the most part. We also, the reminder, we've got our good fucking heir here, Hammurabae de Borbon, who is a radical industrious, expensive tastes, reserved, and a diplomat. So he's basically just a bohemian fucking partier at 25 who occasionally speaks his mind on very extreme political topics. I'm going to go with him as being like super pro-corporatism is what I'm planning for that out of RP. We did still have those colonies we got in the Congo, which we're expanding upon, but we'd view them as being basically without value right now, which is why I've done almost nothing there, because in this time period, the Congo was just seen as almost worthless. So we're really just colonizing up the river and developing it and doing very little else. Rubber and oil are not really super valuable yet, so we know about it being in small quantities there, but to us, it just wouldn't be really worth our time and effort, so we're kind of ignoring it. Why am I running a mega deficit? Think of the follow Skyward Dev. Raise taxes, god damn it. We're getting killed on something here. Well, subsidizing the Philippines is very expensive, but we have a journal entry that's 15k, so we really only need to get rid of 50,000 in spending. We could probably try and lower the price of paper. I bet that is contributing. We'll get into the roleplay. As always, I just need to scramble to figure out the latest crisis for our country, which is how these games always are. We're gonna have to raise taxes, aren't we? That's unfortunate. No way around that. Okay. Oh no, the game froze. That's not good. What happened to Austria? After the Germanic Coalition Wars, where 2 separate coalitions went to war with Germany, Germany was forced into an agrarian economy and have basically fallen economically from power. Not entirely, but in large degrees. Austria survived the war, but due to their massive debt and economic crisis, they collapsed. Utterly. Austria fell apart. They were running, I want to say, a 2 million a month deficit, full taxes after that war. So they just exploded, really. Yeah, but I don't know why my economy died. Something fucking happened, Cheese. I don't know what this is. Is that happening for everyone else? We rolled back to the old version, so I don't think it would be anything with 1.3 causing issues, I would think. That's so weird. When's the Barcelona conference coming? It will come in like a week or so. Yeah, my game froze too. Oh no. I think it's because Quaz is lagging the game. Maybe. That's what I was saying. I was worried about with the update and everything how we do here. Oh, was it Quaz just lagging? Yeah, okay. It was. Good. Well, not good for Quasa, but we have a game that might still run. States in turmoil, that's the high taxes, nothing we can do about that. There's a lot of anger and radicals in our country because, again, we've done basically no reforms. I mean, the slave trade was forcefully banned by America. I did intend to do that anyway. We have gone to cultural exclusion. Ironically, there's also a lot of support for multiculturalism, which is very strange. There's a lot of support for distribution of power reform and all sorts of reform. We're not going to do any of that as long as King Alfonso is alive, or unless we're close to a revolt. Then I will actually do some reforms. I will also probably get us to go on laissez-faire here. Yep, I think so. That was one of the big reforms I want to do. Primarily, this is because, if you remember, like, the biggest power in our government right now is the industrialists. They are completely in power. They have the king and the heir entirely under their sway. And so we'll basically go for most of the things they want, including laissez-faire. I will not go free trade, though, because the king is very going to be against that kind of thing. So we'll go for laissez-faire reforms. And if the heir takes power or the king ever gets pushed to it, we will also go for probably wealth voting at some point. But I'm in no rush to get there. I'm lagging a bit. Let me do something. I did fix my streaming settings today. I didn't realize I'd been streaming on really low quality for like a week or two. So I may have to change my VIC 3 quality settings so my computer can run it. Because I'm streaming in 1080p with really high quality. And then I am also running VIC 3 on max settings. So one moment. Okay. We'll try that. Okay. Look at our trade routes again. Also, if there's any issues with the audio or the video, please let me know. I actually don't know if my computer can run these settings for streaming, so today we're gonna find out. So if it's weird and anything crazy is happening, just let me know. Yeah, okay. Our steel exports to Brazil have just completely become unprofitable. What the fuck is happening there? Did they put on tariffs or what did they do? Bear with me. This is actually really big. Right. Well, we'll have to cancel that trade route. No way around that. We'll need to find someone else to export all this cheap steel that we have now. I mean, we can always use it to decrease our construction costs, which is useful. Yeah, that helped our economy. But I'd rather export it and get us a bit more income, given that was supposed to be one of our primary goods we were going to export. We make money off of it to Brazil. That's so strange. Okay. Look at our economy a little bit more, and then I'm going to try and see if people are ready for the Barcelona conference. Skyscraper site identified. Our architects and engineers have identified Madrid and New Castile as the optimal site to begin construction of the skyscraper. We will begin. I believe we can now. Yes, we can. We'll build a skyscraper in New Castile. Madrid is obviously one of the great cities in the world. We are still a colonial empire. And any capital of a colonial empire would be a very... What's the word? We'll go with bustling place. Take a while. The turmoil is getting out of hand. Let's see if we can increase our police institutions anymore. We cannot. We can only go up to level 3 on that. I might go for secret police or a National Guard. No. Neither of them have any support, actually. What's up, Fuzzy? How you doing? Is this the last session of this playthrough? No, I'll probably have like 2 or 3 more after this. The main reason is there's still actually... The player retention on this game has been absolutely ridiculous. We still have 32 players in the game. We had 34, 2 were just kicked for lagging. We started with, I think, around 60, and we've stayed over half the players for almost 10 sessions now. Like, that's ridiculous. So, I really do like us getting into the late game too. I think the early part of Vic 3 is in many ways the most exciting because it's new and there's so much going on. But the late game is really unique and has a lot of cool stuff in its own regard. So we really are trying to not make these, we are lagging a bit. We're trying not to make these go too badly in terms of not getting to late game. Look, I'm distracted here. Yeah, a lot of people are lagging today. Need more opium, not the biggest deal. Succession movement's growing. We need a lot of opium for our troops. I did go up to field hospitals, so we will need to actually import some of that. I'm a bit worried I may log on my current settings for streaming, but we will see. Turkish, British, and Gajar opium. That game is the Gajars when we exported all that opium. I think it's still probably my favorite Vic multiplayer campaign. Oh, Jesus. A lot of people are lagging out. We might have to run on speed, too, if the lag gets bad enough here. It's the only thing I can think of. Chill like a villain. An ever-exhausting weekend, so I'm going to be an interesting week. For sure, man. Yeah, you're always very busy from what I've seen and how you've described your work life. So hopefully you have some chance to chill, man. I've been very good. Had a long but good week. After victory today, are you going to end the stream or play Grand Campaign or other things? After stream today, we're going to be starting a North Korea single-player Millennium Dawn game. I have been thinking as well, we'll play that out. The next week for the Grand Campaign, I'm going to be doing it with Chris, because he's co-oping it, but after that, I'll just be going back to by myself. I may actually... That voice crack. I may actually start doing Saturday and Sunday Grand Campaign after Vic multiplayer and CK3 multiplayer. The main reason being... I don't know if y'all have seen, but we did announce the multiplayer Grand Campaign for this summer. I would like us to get as far as possible in that before we start the Grand Campaign, the multiplayer one, which will begin in a little over a month, around 6 weeks. So I may start doing streams of the Grand Campaign Saturdays and Sundays. So we'd be going through it pretty quick, but I'm really enjoying it again, and I would like us to get really further. I'd like to be at least in Stellaris, I think, when we get to the multiplayer portion. And we still have to go through half of EU4, Vic. Hoi 4 will be like 2 sessions, so that won't be bad. And then Stellaris, right? So I'm thinking maybe 2 a day, or sorry, 1 a day on the weekends. We could get through a lot more of it quicker. And yeah, we may do that. We'll see. I'll have to kind of look at the logistics of things. What's up, Draco? How are you doing? Yeah, America is broken. It's kind of ridiculous, this game. They are equal to combined GDPs of France and the United Kingdom right now. Communism do be strong, though, mechanically. All right, let's see if people are up for the Barcelona conference. Italy is ready. Let's see what the French... Oh, shit. France crashed, apparently. Let's see if he can still attend, though. All right, he's going to come to RP it. Then we're just waiting on the Russians. I also need to talk. Mexico wanted to come to it. Then so did the Dutch player. I'm in my DMs. It's been a while. Bear with me. Gotta set up another giant conference. Oh, I'm gonna let the colonies know too. So many people. Is the Netherlands here today? Greetings, hello there.
Oh, greetings. The Philippines send their regards.
Wonderful. It's good to have our friends from Manila here. I'm not sure if you saw as well, but we did recently open that mint in your country. I'm not sure if you saw my statement on that.
Yes, it was quite the event in Manila that day. It was quite a beautiful day.
Of course.
You have utmost gratitude from our people today.
It
However,
was an honor.
Just one little thing, sir. We have recently found out that we have been producing quite a lot of excess sugar. Do we have a charter to...
You do. You have full trading rights within the Spanish Empire.
do we have a charter to export it to some friendly countries, sir?
You do. One moment. We are getting some sort of an uprising at the moment in the Congo.
Yes.
Getting reports to that. Regardless, we do welcome all the delegates here today. I do believe we're waiting on the Russians, as well as the French. Fashionably late, it seems.
Shy Tiger crashed.
I know, but he's gonna RP it, so.
Oh, true. Okay.
I do apologize for all the hectic goings on at the capital right now. There has been an uprising in the Congo River Delta. It appears that there were attacks on several of our outposts on the Congo River, but we have it in hand. Just don't worry about all the military staff running around right now. It's unrelated to this conference.
That's all. All right.
Can I get you some refreshments while we wait for the Russians and the French? Perhaps they have been a little delayed. Not sure if everyone here has heard of tapas, but it's something that's becoming a bit of a popular thing in the capital. We could have some brought in while we wait.
We would like some Spanish wine to that as well.
Ah, that we can certainly do as well.
The Dutch brought our own refreshments.
For sharing? Is this a potluck, or are you going to eat them all alone in the corner?
We do not believe that you would want any of our food, so we were not offering it.
If it's the fish that you're all known for, that's similar to the Scandinavian kind, no, but others, certainly.
It's the fish.
Well, you are right.
Yeah.
Oh, he got the telephone, damn. I do like the first two
Just
events
in
we
time
added, so
for
cool.
them to have a revolution.
Another one.
Okay.
I will send some correspondence to them.
It should be made aware that we did, the king did extend the blessings for trade unionists in our country to attend the conference in the Americas.
As long as they are not a defining presence in your government, we do have no issue with that. I was told by the previous Dutch ambassador that you do view as the extremism there as worrying, but you yourselves are open to moderate forms of liberalism, but not the extreme kind. Is that correct?
This is true.
Then we have
We've
no
had a
issue.
long history of republicanism in our country, longer than most.
Moderate liberalism
As
is
you should be
acceptable.
well
This
aware of.
conference is more due to the fact that we have much bigger issues. I do see that the Russians and the French have arrived. We thank you for attending.
Oh, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for the invitation to the Spanish crown.
Well, gentlemen, I am King Alfonso of Spain, and I am here at the Barcelona conference to welcome you all and thank you for your devotion to protecting Europe and protecting the world from extremism. We are gathered here today to speak on a range of issues, but the pinnacle one is the rising danger of extremism. I do not need to say which nation leads this movement, as their actions, I think, are ones that have harmed us all in recent times, and they grow bolder by the day. But it's not just the syndicates. There are other parties, other countries who are at danger of falling to extremism. The Swiss and the Belgians, we dealt with, but it will not always be the case. This conference, at its core, is to find agreements whereby we have mutual ties and mutual commitments towards stopping extremism now and in the future. I'd like to welcome everyone and get things underway.
Very well.
Spain will start very briefly, and then we'd like to hear from the other delegates in terms of what you think here. I'll try to keep it short, which is that the Spanish Empire, like many, have felt the political and economic repercussions of political extremism. Our colonies were lost in the Americas, and in the African Conference, we saw much of the influence of extremism. We also were not prepared to march on the communist nations of Europe after the German Coalition War. What we would like to see here today is an agreement to define the boundaries of what is politically acceptable in leftist extremism and splitting it from moderate liberalism, and to explicitly enumerate the required actions to be taken by gathered countries who would sign such a bill, military, economic, or otherwise. We think that this would be a good start to stopping these countries and other ones from gaining traction. And we will start with that. Are there other countries that would wish to speak to start off with?
Well, the thing is, if we want to stop and possibly the best way, the best solution to apply here would be to restore the previous government of the United States of America. It will require a very bloody and costly war, obviously. So maybe due to, let's say, geographical distances, we can tolerate this government only if it agrees to never interfere into our internal politics by a treaty signed by every power here in the United States, like a last negotiation. But if they refuse, we will have no choice to conduct this war, this intervention against this infamous government. But we will have to gather a lot of military and funds to succeed in that war. That will be very long and I said very costly.
So the French wish to propose direct negotiations with the United States and the retention of their current status.
Well, you know, prior to 1835, there was like this Monroe doctrine spirit, like the United States have their sphere of influence in the Americas, but they don't reach to Europe or Africa or elsewhere in the world.
Were you also in the German Coalition War? Because I think that made very clear that is not the case anymore. I mean, they directly led
obviously
a coalition against the Germanic nations, perhaps for good reason, but for very different ones than I think everyone else here.
Well, obviously this Monroe Doctrine is gone for 40 years now, and maybe we could, in last negotiation, as I said, in good faith, said we restore this spirit, this idea that there is two separate worlds, and USA does not interfere in ours, and we don't interfere in theirs.
You would wish to see a splitting of the
believe-
world?
No, like
I
a
believe the
second
me.
Monroe Doctrine.
I believe the French delegate is unaware the Americans are already interfering with many nations' elections.
Exactly. This is
obviously.
why the Russian Empire would never accept any deal signed together with the United States of America or the Syndicated States of America.
No, I was just suggesting the last negotiation, like we restore this, and then if they refuse...
You really think the Americans would allow a switch of their government without military action?
No. Not switching their government, just we ensure that we restore this Monroe Doctrine and we keep our world, our both world close, separated.
Well, the states, even if they move back to their own government, is still too powerful, and it's a relatively young state, and the Russian Empire doesn't feel that it can conduct international diplomacy properly. So we would suggest that we carve up large territories from the states to other friendly powers, such as Mexico, who is here at this negotiation table.
We would like to commend the bravery of the Mexican delegation to travel here against all the dangers and repercussions that may come to you and your faction back in your homeland. It shows the bravery of those who stand against such tyranny. We cannot abandon them to such doctrine. I hope the French are not suggesting that.
No, it was just a proposition, but I understand it's a complicated one. So if you think we don't have to negotiate further and already start an intervention, I understand as well, and I'm ready for that.
If we could negotiate with, obviously, an iteration of the American people who do not represent these extremist governments, of course. But realistically, Ambassador, I don't see that happening.
Well, I hope you have funds in your treasury, because that's gonna be tricky.
Spain is always willing to commit her resources to stand for her values.
Gentlemen, if I may say something.
Of course.
I have to say that the current communist government in the syndicalist states is nothing more than the beginning of something much worse than we could ever expect. If you have read the Communist Manifesto, gentlemen, it is obvious that this communism cannot and will not stay in one country or a small sphere of influence. They want, and without a doubt, to expand their influence throughout the world so that they could spread this revolution to the world and topple everything that we stand for. Therefore, I see no other option than to take a firm and complete stance against such a threat, gentlemen.
The Netherlands highly disagrees with this.
Why would that be?
The United States is a massive eagle sitting on the other side of an ocean. Even
Bald
if we
eagle.
use the Mexicans, yes, they're still a rather proud eagle. They sit on the other side of an ocean, and their numbers are uncountable now.
Is that not making this even more relevant? If they are such a power now, they will only get more so. We are at, I believe, the last point in human history where the dangers of communism and the dangers of Marxism can be stopped, gentlemen. If we do not do something now, we are committing the future of our nations and our species to this extremist doctrine. There is no doubt of that in my mind. If we were to walk away and accept that,
democracy not that long ago, and that fell out of favor, didn't it?
I am very confused here. When your government approached me about attending this conference, I was told that you had full conviction not only to discuss action against extremism, but to do what is necessary. Then what has changed?
We believe that this would be an ideological conference, much like the religious conferences of old, to define what would be unacceptable communist doctrine, what would be acceptable communist doctrine. In our
There
nation.
is no acceptable communist doctrine.
Correct.
Crazy.
The Philippines agrees. There is
Sir,
no acceptable.
Have you not have read any of your history of the religious wars we fought on this continent?
I don't see
It is
how.
only through a compromise.
This is very irrelevant at this time. We are trying to discuss the possibility of action here and conclusive choices to stop this threat. If the Netherlands wishes to discuss, I don't even know what you're discussing at this point, and frankly, it has very little relevance on this conference. Our time is growing short, gentlemen. We do not need to waste it on discussions of compromise and lack of action.
We will need a second front in addition to the Mexican one. And to
First of all,
that end, we have researched and implemented into our Navy landing crafts. And I encourage you all to research that as well, so that we can succeed into this naval warfare and land into their western coast.
well, we all need to
Yeah,
wait
yeah, it's
until
toast.
our nations build up their navy. Currently, the Russian Navy is undergoing a huge modernization program after the defeat against Turkey, so they need more than 10 years to complete that.
Your mic is clipping very hard out of RP. I'm struggling a little bit. Just heads up.
Also, there is the matter of the United Kingdom as well. If they join on their side, we will have to take them out first, and that's gonna prolong. That's gonna make the war last very long as well.
Well,
What
I
if
think
realistically would
Russia
the
would
United Kingdom join in?
The chances are
They are
quite
led
low.
by
They
an
cooperate with the
industrialist
U.S.
government.
Yes, the Netherlands knows about the very close relationship the British and the Americans have always had ever since the War of 1812.
When have they ever fought in military conflict? Britain has made clear in recent years they will fight almost no wars of aggression, nor even few of defense. And I think many in their government, given it is still very much a modern industrial one, would struggle to justify to their people the supporting of a syndicalist communist superpower.
I believe they can justify a friendly one.
Friendliness does not mean you will send millions to die in a war.
Yes, but friendliness means you will not send millions to die in a war.
Gentlemen, I think we can all agree that we need to detach the United Kingdom from the United States. Isn't that correct?
Yes. They
And
are
maybe
very
we should
different.
we should also talk about China, because China is currently one of their biggest trade partner. And if we cut loose those trade relations, maybe we can even bled out the United States economically as well.
You have something in mind? We have discussed internally in Madrid something similar and have been in ongoing relations and discussions with the Emperor, which have proven difficult, but we do agree that is a very good course of action in order to make them more susceptible to either negotiations or direct conflict.
Well, we will talk with one of the representatives of the Emperor very, very soon. That we will try to offer him such a deal. In what way they will refuse any other American attempt to influence them and maybe break their relationship with them. We have to see and wait until these negotiations.
Very well. We do agree, though, that would be an option to be pursued. The question, though, is what to do about the United States as a whole. There is no doubting their action to change the political statuses and interfere in elections in the Americas, and I'm sure given time that will move on to Europe and other regions of the world. They have fought for the rights of nations or whatever, tribes in Africa, which is nonsensical, and they will continue to do so. Do we wish to take the route simply of political outmaneuvering as we watch them go even powerful? Or do we need to take more decisive action? We are all still great powers and empires, to a degree. This will not remain relevant compared to the power of the United States for much longer.
So, no last negotiation, just a direct intervention.
While the Russian Empire cannot support any intervention right now.
Even if France and Spain are on board.
The Italians are also on board with
Yes.
such an intervention.
Well, we have to think that way, but as I said, our Navy is nowhere near from any duties.
We are
of
not
the
suggesting a
defense.
declaration of war at this conference. To make this very clear, it will take time for our nations to militarize to be able to meet this threat. But Russia does have the wealth and men and technology to prepare such a thing. And I do agree, it would be the navies that are our greatest weakness at this moment. The United States has, Jesus Christ, 400?
Yes, the Americas have grown fat over the wars that
What
we've
the
fought on the continent.
fuck?
We've seen labor shortages cripple many industries across Europe.
By the way, Ham, I would like to imagine your assistant comes up with a paper over the United States fleet. And
This speaks to my point even more so. Do you really think at the current rate of things we'll be able to contend them navally in another 10 years? We would need to dramatically raise our fleets, but we can. Our nations combined would have the fleet power. Already, I'm looking at my numbers. My advisor here brought France has close to equaling the size of the United States. Italy has half. Spain has less than half, but could grow it very quickly. And if Russia would develop a proper navy, we could meet them on sea as well as land. Make no mistake, it is a question of time.
I can expand my navy, but I need to raise my taxes, so... Also, I don't know what the IR is doing currently with France. I just hope it's not fucking fixed up.
Yes, pray for the best.
Yeah. But yes, I can afford more navies.
Russia can afford that. Currently, we are sitting in a huge debt, which is basically stopping us to rapidly expand our navy. So, if any
How great is your
financial
debt at
help,
this time?
well, let me just ask my advisor, Igor.
19 million. Jesus. Okay.
Just a small amount of 19 million rupees.
If the nations gathered here today could agree upon a financial package to bail out your struggling banks at this time, to a degree, would you then be willing to enter into agreements to militarize your navy and your country and prepare for such a conflict, given you would then have the wealth needed?
Of course, but then we have to also talk about what would Russia get in terms of territory out of this war. As you may know,
A territorial discussion can be gotten to, but we need to get conclusive reasoning and conclusive discussion on our actions to be taken. This is fundamentally an ideological struggle, not a territorial one. Though I do agree that the United States' territories would definitely need to be discussed, as all parties, I'm sure, would wish to. But this is about ideology first and foremost. So let us get conclusively an action plan in place before we do such a thing.
then you can count on Russian support.
Are the other great powers gathered here today, primarily France and Italy, willing to discuss the bailing out of Russian banks jointly?
The Italian economy has recently entered a recession, so we are uncertain at this time.
Also, out of RP, did everyone else's economy die this session when you got back in game?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna figure out when I come back.
Yeah, that was so weird. I have no idea what was causing that.
But the thing is, I will need to pay for Russian debt and also expanding my navy. So I need to see if I can do both at the same time.
To be honest, if I can get rid of traditionalism, I can fix my country. But right now, I cannot tax anymore. So that's why I.
Oh, you're on traditionalism. Jeez.
Yeah.
And land-based taxation.
Yeah, because I cannot change it because of traditionalism.
No, he's screwed as Russia. It's really rough if you don't get it early game. I mean, other people have asked for lots of law save edits this game. I mean, you could have asked for a save edit.
I mean, if I cannot do this at this session, I may ask for that.
Yeah, we need to become much more clear about defining what you can do with those things, and I guess you can do law requests, so I would have recommended that, but it's fine. For now, Spain also is struggling a bit financially at this time due to the recent, we'll go of recession that is hitting the global economy, which does make this all much more difficult. Is Russia able to even retain a surplus at this time with their budget?
No. Right now, we cannot. Because we are paying a hefty fee to the Ottomans as war reparation. After that, our current expenditure can be halved, but we'll still be at negative. But the Russian state can take it right now. We have a huge gold reserve.
How great of a gold reserve are we talking about?
1 million. 100 million.
You do have a very large gold reserve then. And what is your current deficit?
20 million, sorry.
Monthly?
Oh no, deficit. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
It's 200k.
Wait, how do you have a 20 million deficit if you have 100 million in your treasury?
No, it's my credit limit.
Okay, I see. Okay, never mind. Very well. This is a bit of an issue. I think we'll need some time then to balance the recession, and then obviously to militarize and help out the Russian economy. Would the French-Italian states also be willing to potentially, in several years' time, start to subsidize the Russian government?
Yes.
Possible, but that also assumes that the French as well as the Italian economy fixes itself as well.
That is true. Out of RP again, does anyone know what the fuck is causing this?
No.
I don't know. It's not my Wi-Fi, so it's in game.
It's a thing that happens sometimes when you reload the game. All the calculations change. I slightly suspect that America is starting to like warp the markets.
All right. AI France just declared war on Persia, so I'm gonna hop on France and make sure they don't mobilize.
Oh god.
Persia.
Jesus Christ.
You don't even share a board?
Yep. Well, I mean, it's not the most like it's the that's not.
That's AI movement.
Oh my! I crashed.
Oh, okay. I think we have to rehost, John. Because we're
Well-
missing now the main game controller and 2 great powers.
Yeah, I guess so. Alright, rehost.
Yay, I love rehost.
Might gonna happen again though.
I also I feel weird.
We
that,
are with the update at the point that we may struggle a bit here, but I'd recommend we even consider speed 2 for longer when we start.
Yeah. Also, what I discovered, it's much more smoother if you disable all the DLC. So even the American military one. That way, it's less likely that you have connection problems.
Okay. Well, we'll get back into RP then. So in that case, how about we discuss the possibility then of a plan to cooperate economically and politically for the next couple of years as we all stabilize our economies and help Russia get out of its overwhelming debt, and we all begin to militarize properly, primarily navally, and then we can consider intervention after that time then. I mean, that is dangerous. We're giving them a lot of time.
The wolf is here.
Host this up.
Are we rehosting?
Yeah, I crashed trying to switch to France, so.
I see. Okay. Thank you for letting me know.
No problem.
All right, do we want to delay the talks then and come back later, or what do you want to do here?
I would prefer to do it now, that's what I'll
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case,
The
what are the other...
About the talks we need to attend.
Sorry?
The Netherlands has obligations to attend other talks. We do.
All right, Surma, out of RP, your the other person who was on it did make very clear to me that you had like full intention to do all this stuff. You don't have to since you're taking
did?
over. Yeah, but don't like walk into this, listen to this.
Told me that I was supposed to attend it.
All I'm asking is you don't walk out of here and just start telling everyone and switch your foreign policy 100% and tell them everything here, because I was told by him that you like Netherlands were very committed to all this, and if you're not, which is your RP, that's fine. Just please don't go blabbing after coming here under like, not the same circumstance. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Just want to make sure we're on the same page on that.
Yeah. I like stabilizing stuff. So.
All right, back on hand. 3 years of economic reform and stabilization, 2 years of militarization and support of Russia, after which we reconvene to discuss intervention. What do the gathered delegates think of this proposal?
To clarify, this would be January 1894.
I believe so, yes. In that time, I also recommend we send delegates to the Qing to speak about detaching them. And I also suggest we speak more with South American countries who are still moderate liberals. So we do know they have a lot of interference from the governments and the spy agencies there.
And we suggest the Spanish government to negotiate with the Portuguese because they are becoming more and more friendly with the regime in Russia.
They are already.
Yes, and we need to detach them because Portugal currently is one of the biggest trade partners of Russia. We don't want to see it falling into American hands.
For which nation?
Portugal.
Portugal, Spain has already met with, and they have entered into a defensive alliance with the United States, and when we talked with them, they had no issue with the current ruling power, leading us to believe they themselves may also be going down that path, which is very worrying given their border to us, of course.
I see. Maybe we can have a Spanish intervention into Portugal?
That would most certainly pull in the United States.
Then we have the exact perfect casus belli. For the future, of course, not right now.
We do worry about that, but there's nothing we can frankly do at this time.
I think it is imperative that we challenge American power before the turn of the century.
We agree. If we cannot intervene before then, there's nothing we'll be able to do.
Let us enter a new century free of communism and such terrible ideologies.
It actually sucks that Vic is so unstable.
It is, yeah. It's better than it used to be. When it first
Very.
dropped, at least. So, alright. In that case, we have a charter then, which would be... we can name it whatever we like, but it would be a general statement of purpose and agreement to all cooperate. We will work with one another economically. We will stabilize our economies. We will support one another to enter into an economically stable state and militarize our land forces, but primarily our naval forces, after which we can intervene and support America, support Mexico to get out under the yoke of the United States, as well as see governmental change in Washington.
Well, for Russia to commit to this plan fully, we would need that all of these powers present here would acknowledge the Central European region, the former states of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, except Austria, as part of the Russian sphere.
Unacceptable. You are really going to take this time when we are discussing cataclysmic, existential, ideological danger in America to push your sphere on Central Europe?
Yes. Well, this does not mean a direct Russian overlordship over these countries.
Despite the
but,
danger of the U.S., Spain will not support this topic to continue at all. If this is a non-starter for Russia, very well, but we can't support this ideological conflict being used to allow Russia to grow a sphere in Central Europe. That's simply unacceptable to our delegation.
Well, then Russia may have to reconsider our position.
That is your choice. You're welcome to discuss it with the gathered nations here separately, but this is not something for this conference. I would suggest the Russian delegate consider whether they really want to derail something of such importance for your own nation and the world over this issue.
We do understand the Spanish concern, but we still uphold our proposal.
And Spain upholds her statement.
Very well. What about the other powers?
The Italians concur with the Spanish. That's the threat is far larger.
I also think that's not appropriate for you to take advantage of the situation to push for your personal agenda.
You do not need to go down this path. We can simply leave this topic alone and move on. You can have these talks separately with all our countries, but it does not need to be done here today.
Very well, but we remember this moment.
Very well.
It is in your interest to join us, clearly.
It's in all of our interests. This is a necessity, not a desire for some specific conflict. We're all here because we know we must preserve our nations and we must preserve our future for our children and our grandchildren. Do we have terms then?
I just need to have access to my economical data and I confirm to you.
Are there any other provisions to the current suggestion, which will be a 5-year treaty signed here for the discussed components?
Well, we need to make sure Russia is not going to expand aggressively again if they want our support.
Russia currently has a financial crisis and they are committed to ideological struggle. The government of Russia has made that very clear. Spain places her trust in the Russian government to honor the spirit of this convention and prepare for what must be done, while also remembering that there is much to be gained beyond ideology for the Russian state if they pursue this conflict and honor this treaty, which they well know. And we will trust them to act in the interest of their government, the world, as well as their own interests.
Well, they just announced they have ambitions over Central Europe, so I just want to make sure before I send them money that they not gonna expand again.
We only want to stabilize the region after the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. We already received invitations from the Hungarian state that they want to join the Russian custom union.
Would the Russian government be willing to set aside this issue until after the conflict with the U.S.? This is a discussion that is very warranted and very well had, and we do agree that talks do need to be had about the future of the post-Austrian states. But we cannot distract ourselves with this at this time due to the danger of the US. I think many of the delegates here gathered today would support discussions on that, including the potential for Russian expansion economically in the region, but it needs to be done after, because this is the one thing that can divide us and can result in the United States gaining the upper hand, as well as all other extremist ideology.
Well, it is right now something which believe, or the Russian delegation believe, that we should discuss, since the United States is not threatening the Russian Empire. We can take on US
they're
attack
not
anytime
threatening
that we
you.
defend our lands.
They are rivals of your government. They have declared an interest in seeing aggressive action against you. They have attempted to outmaneuver you in the Germanic post-war conference in Africa. What do you mean the United States is not threatening you?
All I'm saying that we can beat the American anytime.
Sorry?
All I'm saying that the Russian Empire can beat the American anytime in a 1v1 fight.
You just spoke about the Navy difference. You have a fifth of their fleet.
Well,
You are in debt.
We are not planning to landing on their shores.
They could cut off all your trade and land troops anywhere they want.
The Russian economy is strong enough.
This heated conversation with good news. You are all invited to the First International.
You see? Do you not see, Russia?
No, I don't. I'm not in the game.
Get this man out of here. Guards, take this man and remove him from the premises. Dirty communists. Do you not see the danger at hand? They're even in my halls in Madrid. I don't know how that man got in here.
We see the danger, but we are saying that Russia can take on the United States, and it looks like it's France and Spain who needs Russia help, and not the other way around. This is why we would like to discuss.
If you wish to walk away from this conference right now, we will pursue our duty alone if necessary. Spain will fight on alone if needed for our own ideology. Make no mistake. We are all in need of each other, and we are all in need for a moment of unity. We can go back to what we were doing before, all of our own interests and the fighting we have done for centuries. That is fine, but this is far beyond any conflict or issues we have had in all of our history. This is an unprecedented moment, and we deeply request that Russia do not take on this incendiary discussion topics in order for us to keep the ship pointed forward. If we do not, you are dooming the future of your nation and all nations here.
The Italians would like to point out that our spy network has managed to infiltrate the First International. I will now hand over a document displaying which nations are attending. Out of RP, look in the text chat for this voice chat. This is highly concerning, and we must stop this threat before it grows larger.
Do the Russians still view this as a minor issue only with the United States? We have to remember, this talk is about the Americas, because America was the first to fall to syndicalism and communism, but there are many more now who are taking to it. As I said before, if we do not act here, this is the last time we will have any chance of stopping it.
The Swiss nation is on its way to returning to communism as well.
If you do not join us, Russian ambassador, you will clearly regret it in the future.
Well,
Do
I
not
think
be the man who is known in the history of your people, whispered behind closed doors as a harsh communist government rules in your nation, to be the one to allow the fall of Western civilization. Do not let that be your legacy.
Well, the Vosges is glorious enough to decide for themselves what or what might not he want to do in his foreign policy. So right now, the Russian delegation cannot comment this conference anymore further, but we will stay here.
Do you remember what happened last time you were alone?
Is this a threat from the French delegation?
No, it's just a reminder.
Merely an observation.
Well, we do heard it as a threat, and we'd like
No.
to
It doesn't benefit you to be all alone in this world.
and just issue an apology.
I have done what I can to steer this conference, and I will go to my grave in peace. I have done what I can to preserve the future of my nation, my traditions, my religion. I will go to the noose knowing that I have done what I can for my values. And I will make one last call to ask everyone else here to do the same. Do not allow yourself to be divided by our conflicts. This is our last moment. This is our last chance. If we do not stand together, we will fall alone here.
The Philippines stands with Spain unto the end.
Russia
Mexico
stands with the Volge.
stands with Spain.
We do not stand with a single country. We stand together, gentlemen. We stand for our values. And we stand for the line we must draw in the sand. That is why we are all here today. All of us alone are not strong enough to stop even a fraction of it. Well, I have a list here now from my ambassador saying that the conference of the First International has grown even more. I do not know if we stand together, if we can even begin to take them on. We already are at such a disadvantage. But we must.
Please consider it well, Mr. Ambassador.
What I heard from our friends in Serbia and in Sweden, Norway, that their government is not actually attending this international, but they're social democratic parties.
Yeah,
Which
the
they
USA
will-
was social democratic at first, and then it radicalized.
Yes, but these parties are not in power currently, not in Serbia, and neither in Sweden.
It is a
And-
slippery
but in
slope.
Sweden-
Ambassador.
As far as I see it, there's nothing to be said else at this point. This is Russia's choice now. If they do not wish to stand together and we cannot walk forward, we must all return home and prepare for the worst.
Well, as I said before, currently the Russian delegation cannot comment it more this conference, since our very, very gracious demands were not met. And we have to re-evaluate our position in the world.
In that case, the Barcelona conference, unfortunately, will result in failure. Spain will stand with any country who takes threat from radicals and from the United States, but I will be frank and state it clearly to all gathered. We must prepare for the eventuality whereby our governments are overthrown, our industry is seized, and we must fight on. Spain has a long history of guerrilla warfare. We once fought the French in the mountains and the hills, and we can do it elsewhere in our empire. But gentlemen, I say this very clearly to you. We recommend you begin to prepare for such an event, whereby our nations fall, and those loyal to true values must fight on with nothing. We will begin to stockpile weapons in key points of our country and in the colonies and prepare for such an event. And we would recommend all others gathered do the same. If either the French, the Russians, or the Italians are attacked, and attempt to overthrow them by communist powers, we will come to your aid, despite a lack of a treaty here today. This, I do promise you, for my government.
Please speak about it, Russia.
We will. I will personally inform the divulged about this conference, but I would also ask all of the delegations here and the Spanish king to reconsider our offer as well, since we are not asking.
We stand upon our values. This is not a conference meant for
Our
such things,
coalition-
and we will not have it divided by such discussions. We stand united in purpose, or we will stand for nothing, Ambassador.
Our coalition should be unconditional due to the seriousness of the American threat.
Again, the US is not a threat against Russia, since we can deal with them way, way easily than you can imagine.
With all due respect,
you're-
you are not wrong. You are wrong. Sorry.
Your ideology, your government structure, and principles are at the other side of their ideology, so obviously it is a threat. An ideological one and a military one as well.
Again, Russia do not like to take threats kindly.
Can we approach Qing in any way?
We can attempt to, but without the support of Russia, without the support of a united coalition, we do not see any measure of success there. When I last spoke with the Emperor, he suggested to my delegates very clearly that he will side with those who are strong. And I do not see any strength here today, I am sad to say.
You may not see the Americans as a threat because your regime is stable, Russia. But there is other countries that are not as stable against the communist threat and that will fall apart. Like
And this is why we want to get the Central European region, except Hungary, under the Russian sphere, so we can defend them against the sick.
I will say, gentlemen, there is a certain irony here that the fall of great empires will come from such a thing. I have to say, I'm trying not to laugh at this moment. I know this is a serious moment, but the irony here is thick. The ambitions of my own country caused us to fall for similar means.
You're not being rational now. And the stabilization of the former Austrian Empire is in the hand of the consent of Europe, not yours.
We see it otherwise.
Well, in that case, we would like to announce an end to the Barcelona conference. We would invite the gathered delegates to stay a while. I do have a large quantity of high-quality booze, some of which has been here since the early days of the Spanish Empire. Given we're so close to the end, gentlemen, I think it's as good a time as any to break it out and enjoy a glass together. Do you not?
Indeed.
Do you have
Very
bourbon?
well. I'll bring the casks. I'll get my my servants to bring some. There's a certain vintage which has been in our cellars of my family for near on 500 years now. I don't know if it's drinkable, but we're going to find out together.
Fancy.
Blair, you're making us emotional.
It has been an honor. To the governor of the Philippines, I would like to say that your nation has stood strong, and Spain would not be where it was today without you. And we know that you, like us, will fight to the end for your values. And I commend you, and I commend your people.
It's an honor, sir.
It is an honor.
The Italian delegate will now leave the room. Thank you
Farewell.
for hosting this conference.
We thank you for attending.
До свидания.
Farewell, Russia.
Well, thank you, Russia, for jeopardizing everything. Goodbye, everyone.
Farewell, Ambassador.
I'm so sorry, but it is my character to be this selfless prick.
That's fine. It's interesting. The game is going to fall due to Russia in ambition. It's like so ironic. It's kind of ridiculous.
I mean,
So it's fine. It's a fitting end to the campaign.
Either
just
way,
have
Russia still loses the Cold War.
True. Yeah. Oh,
You
man.
just have to accept my very, very small demand.
Well, out of RP, I'm going to go start preparing for my final stand. As soon as we get in game, of course.
Yeah, I'm about to roleplay a full collapse of my own government.
I'm going to fully militarize, and I'm going to be obviously preparing my coast for siege, stocking weapons in the mountains of Iberia and the colonies,
no.
and preparing.
I have a proposition for you.
Oh, what might that be?
Right, I should leave them.
Very well.
Your Majesty Alfonso, you may be aware that we have recently detached ourselves from the American dollar, but that leaves the Mexican people without a currency. We're trading in gold.
It is a very tried and true method, I suppose, for currency, but a little bit, well, inconvenient, I suppose. What are you suggesting?
Indeed. And this is why I suggest that the Mexican people adopt the currency of Spain.
We'd be...
As it was suggested by your predecessors nearly 5 decades ago.
We are not against such a thing as long as there is a government in Mexico City who stands with our values and our nation But I will say, and I'm going to be very honest with you, you do put yourself in great danger, as we have no doubt you will have action taken from your northern neighbor.
We are not afraid. Your Majesty Alphonse, it is within the greatest interests of my own people that action be taken to protect their own economic security, if I must. And even if such action warrants a hostile action from the north, it is such actions that we are taking now that will continue to protect our people. The walls that we have built around us to once prevent our people from constantly fleeing from a United States-backed government are now the same very walls that will continue to protect us.
I will accept what you are proposing. I will stand with you, but I want you to make sure your government is aware that you will likely start a war over this. We will stand with you. The time for my nation to stand for its ultimate values has come, and I'm happy to do it alongside our brothers in Mexico. But you are aware of what you are starting, yes?
We are absolutely aware of it.
Then we will stand with you, and we will accept your proposal.
We will further comment that recent files from the now missing former vice president have shown interventions already being prepared within the Americas. As we are both aware, the Venezuelans are within your very same customs union.
They use our currency, yes, indeed, and we do have an agreement to protect them.
Yes. And
We do know that Colombia is wishing to annex their state and force their people into servitude, and we will stand with them as well, as we promised when we took them into our embrace.
Yes, of course, and this is all well and good, but I fear as if the same situation that may be caused by us will be caused by them as well. Which is why I give this proposition now. And on top of allowing the use, the Mexican use of the Spanish currency, we offer the Spanish armed forces the use of Mexican ports and territory.
This is a very bold suggestion. We will not station troops in your country nor navies. We will not be the ones to start a great war without the allies by which I can protect my nation, but we will defend ours and our own. And if it comes to that, we will use your ports, and we will use whatever else is needed. And we do thank you for this offer, and we will accept as well. We also would have a request of both the governor of the Philippines, who has come all this way, and we thank you again, as well as the leader of the Mexican opposition. I will be traveling myself by boat to Rio de Janeiro to speak with the Brazilian government one last time to attempt to treaty with the South American Federation in order to make them see reason and to see if anything can be done to protect about what is beginning to happen. If we fail, very well. But we would like to invite you to come with us. Perhaps more than one could make them see reason.
When is such a conference occurring?
After the after the first international, I think.
Hmm.
They are still discussing.
Yeah. Well, the Philippines will be more than willing to join. So.
Glad to hear it. I will also be dispatching, Governor, a contingent of troops to the Philippines. I also would request, and my High Command and my High Admiralty will be in contact to begin to fortify islands in the region, as well as prepare for the continuation of warfare after the fall of major cities. We hope it will never come to this, but I see the future as far as I think it will come, and I wish to make all actions necessary to prepare for us to make the best defense we can. Is this something your government can agree to?
Of course it is, sir. We are willing to stand unto the end, whatever the cost may be.
We also will be
would like-
taking a trip to Beijing, if you would like to come on that as well. Though I do see that there is a
Oh.
Russian ambassador currently taking up the Emperor's time.
Of course.
Hmm.
It is after all, they are our neighbors. So
They are indeed.
it won't be a long trip.
We still, in theory, have very good relations with Beijing, but we'll see. Given all recent affairs, what will come of it?
We would like to inform the Mexican delegate to inform Mexico to start fortifying their border.
We already have basic fortifications in the form of a border wall between us.
That will not be enough, sir. I
I don't-
suggest you build forts and trenches and everything possible.
On your coastlines, too, you must
Okay.
remember their fleet is double the closest nation. Or I
Yes.
apologize. France is in a similar sphere. But if we're being honest, now that ambassador is gone, we also what happened with the great French fleet in the last war they fought in.
Hopefully this time it will be different, for they are fighting Americans and not Europeans.
Hopefully, indeed.
These are interesting times we live in, people.
They are indeed.
Yeah.
Would anyone else like another glass of this fine Spanish alcohol? I'm going to be drinking out every last drop of the good stuff. No reason the communists need to get this when I'm hanging from a noose.
Of
Of course,
Wonderful.
We-
Pour
we-
another glass.
we'll see you today. I'll raise a glass to this.
Oh, damn right. Damn right. Well, it is a... You are right. We do, I suppose, have the privilege to live in interesting times. I wonder what our ancestors would think of us here today. Many did not think
Well-
the world would change so much. I know my father did not.
Well, sir, how things are going, we may soon join them.
That is true.
Well, even if we do, at least we will join them in honor.
Yeah, if God is willing, we will, by the end of this, before the beginning of the new century, we will be able to deal with this threat once and for all.
Gentlemen, before you all do go home and while we enjoy this evening together, I've taken up to having a bit of a spot of fun with my son. He's not here now. The bastard's out partying. He has a bit of a taste for the lavish bohemian lifestyle, but in the evenings, we sometimes spend together. We have a habit of reading. Have you read the Communist Manifesto, a nonsensical communist document? The one that the leader of Switzerland wrote, I believe. Excuse me. Alcohol went down the wrong pipe. We have had a bit of a tradition recently of reading it in the evenings, just for humor. It is quite funny. I have a particular passage my son likes to read. It never makes me stop laughing. Let the ruling classes tremble at communist revolution. The proletariats have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. The first time I heard that, I think I almost died laughing. And it was not the best, but I hope you will share in my my humor for this whatever the fuck they call it.
Well, sir, who could ever have believed that such ideas would become actually established in a great country like the United States?
Yeah. They were always one founded on strange ideas. I mean, I'm sure you both have read the history. They were republicanism, franchisement, such things. They are... The people need a strong hand, gentlemen. Both of you know that. Without it, we descend into anarchy, and we descend into tyranny. But, what can be done? Wolves in sheep's clothing speaking to them, always, of such things. Promising them their heart's desire, but requiring nothing but change themselves. This is why I don't drink bourbon often. Makes me like this.
Oh, sir. Let us drink until there is no more.
Indeed. Oh my gosh, I finally loaded. How do I RP? Man, these rehosts when we get in late game Vic are so fucking ridiculous.
You know, we have another one in like 40 minutes.
I don't think we'll probably do the midway one. This will probably be our rehost, I'd say. I don't know what they'll decide though.
I'm already taking the attendance as if it was.
Alright. And I'm gonna move my hands off my keyboard so I don't click any buttons. So tempting.
Oh.
Out of RP, how are you guys doing on radicals? I'm curious.
I have 2.3 million.
Oh fuck.
So do I. 2.3
Yeah.
million.
I'm actually 77% in the way of a liberal socialist revolution.
Are you really? Fuck.
Yeah.
Oh man. What are they wanting you to reform to stop it?
They want me to enact universal suffrage, but I'm also enacting oligarchy.
Fuck. Clearly the government
So-
is representing the will of their powerful interest groups. Oh fuck.
Yeah, I'm trying to roleplay a strictly business left-led government now.
That's what I am too. The industrialists just own my government basically.
Oh no, it's not even like the government's just basically just a congress of businessmen now.
Well, my government.
You're going corporatocracy. You beat me to it. God damn it. I was going to do that in 2 sessions. Hell yeah.
It makes sense after, you know, we've been subjugated by communists that we're just like, yeah, nah.
Your resources are resources. Yeah, I see the economy drop when you left the market too. Just like that plunge.
Yeah, it's slowly recovering. I'm still making, like, if I pause all of my, because I'm gonna stop doing, when I enact this finally, I'm gonna stop doing government constructions usually. So when I pause it, I start making like 200,000 a year or a week, and I might just start subsidizing everything.
Subsidization isn't the best mechanically, Schlob. What you want to do since your business is make all your buildings, switch it to ownership, put those on publicly traded, lower your taxes to absolutely nothing, and if you still have a deficit, get rid of your consumption taxes. At this point of the game, you need to work on standard of living.
I'm not subsidizing buildings, I'm subsidizing nations.
Oh, I see.
I'm
Okay,
just
that's
gonna
fair.
start sending money to people.
Yeah, I got you. Makes sense.
Bribery. It
Also gonna go to the
works.
bathroom real quick. I'll be right back. Before we get going again and we're stuck in everything for another 2 hours.
Pain. That's what Victoria 3 is.
Alrighty, we are back. Game stable?
Seems like it.
Cool. Alright. My economy dropped again. It might also be the wars I'm fighting. And by the way, Governor, I do just want to notify you, as well as our friends in Mexico, given recent actions, that we are dealing currently with a revolt on the Congo River. Recently, we have developed a number of outposts much deeper down the Great River that goes into the interior of the heart of Africa. We have Kinshasa, of course, which has a population of around 10,000 now, but the majority of our outposts are still on the river. And recently, we did have many of them burned and were attacked along it from tribes who attacked us from in the jungle. And we have pushed deeper and burned much of it. Just a heads up. It will be a good experience for our troops for the coming wars, though, I think.
I say, sir, I think some of my military theorists have discovered that with the recent advance in technology, it seems that the defense could have quite a bit of an advantage over the offense. But that's just his theories.
What has brought upon such a suggestion? I've never heard anything of this. Offense has always defined the wars in Europe and beyond.
Well, anyways, sir, but his theory is that just a simple trench with a good enough crew could just hold off an entire attack by itself. That's his theory, from his recent observations.
An interesting proposal. I've heard very little of this myself. I mean, obviously there are much better entrenchment systems, but not enough to stop a full-blown attack from 1,000,000 men, I would not think. At least not in our own doctrine at this time.
No, sir. He theorized that artillery is the biggest killer. So.
That we do know, but the rapid kind, the kind you can move of your army in order to quickly maneuver and take the fight to the enemy, that's what has always defined ours. But if you wouldn't mind, do send those documents to my high command. I'm sure they'd like to look them over.
Of course, sir. They will be sent as soon as I return back to Manila and inform the general staff.
Do appreciate that. Gentlemen, before you do return home as well, out of RP, I don't know if we're going to stay in VC to prepare for all this, or what you want to do, but the Qing are open if you'd like to go speak with them with me as well.
Yeah, I'm ready. Whenever you want to go, I'm ready.
Alrighty. So
I'll join you when you speak to the Brazilians.
Sounds good. We will see you then. Greetings, Your Majesty.
Hello there. You are most welcome.
I thank you for the audience and the ability to speak with the great Qing. I am the son of King Alfonso. My name is Amadeo de Borbon. I am young but will one day inherit a great and old power, much like you did here of your own great state. I am sent at the request of my father to speak with you and discuss our previous discussions on the Philippines, as well as the growing threat of the Internationale.
Of course, and you're most welcome to come and speak on these matters. We have had some thoughts on what we previously spoke about on the Philippines.
That's good to hear.
We have some proposals that we think could benefit both of us and achieve both of our goals. That being our goal of increased pressure in Asia to do something about the ever expanding control of Europe in Asia. But also to keep a steady balance of Spanish influence within Asia itself.
That is agreeable. We'd like to hear your terms. Also, the governor of the Philippines is here with me as well, and is here representing his own state.
Of course, yeah. What our proposal would be in the interim is what we would ask of you is to give the Filipino people their rights back in a sense of being able to control how their own country is run and give them a chance to do that and support them in that matter. We would support and encourage the Philippines to stay within the Spanish market. We would not expect them to change such dramatic circumstances upon themselves, since they have been ruled by the Spanish for a very long time, and it's a very well-established fact, and not something that we are looking to tear away at any moment. For this, we, as you well know, we have some serious issues with the Dutch in the region. Their breaking of our agreements to no more expansion in Asia has very much soured relations, if not completely ended them. And I feel that it's also a slight on you. You were also in that agreement, and within that agreement, you upheld your side of that agreement, and
we did.
We feel it's a detriment to both of us what's happened. So what I think I would like to see happen is the Filipino people to have a right to rule themselves under the supervision of the Spanish, to keep your influence. But I would also like to see the Dutch with a lot less influence in the region. My proposal would be a joint operation between Ching and Spanish forces and Filipino forces, should you wish it. One, to liberate the island of Borneo, as we've been speaking to the pro-Asians in Borneo, and they're looking to get liberated quickly. But also to see maybe some more control come under Spanish influence within the Dutch East Indies. We would rather see certain areas of the Dutch East Indies under a more trustworthy control, if that had to be, and that would be under the Spanish. So we were potentially looking for to take some more power and influence off the Dutch by potentially handing it over to the Spanish Empire. And what I'm speaking of really is North and South Sumatra.
So to clarify your statements here, just so I can get them very clear, I have been given leave to negotiate for my father, and I do represent, I feel, the interests of many parties in my nation even more than he does. You are suggesting that the Philippines would no longer explicitly be a puppet, and they would simply be a member state of the real currency and of the Spanish bloc, probably the Council of the Indies as well, given that's not direct control, and they would be able to choose their laws as they wish. You would then suggest we enter into a joint war with the Qing in order to go after the Dutch, which would result in an independent Brunei. And then as for the rest of the Dutch East Indies, am I right in suggesting you are suggesting them to be our puppet or as part of our market system? That is one thing I'd like clarified here.
I think what I'm suggesting, everything was correct in what you just said. What I'm suggesting is, for the joint operation, liberating Brunei and then seeing the rest of Sumatra come under Spanish control as opposed to Dutch control, that being directly taking it off the Dutch East Indies. Such a change would obviously need stabilization, so we would expect the Spanish government and crown to take care of that, whether that be by direct control over North and South Sumatra. That is up to you. Obviously, again, maybe in another 20 years we will be approaching you to potentially look at giving them more freedoms, but obviously it remains the Dutch. But that's up to you. That'll be up to your choice.
So out of RP, is that the remaining territories not included in Brunei, or am I missing anything? Because my Indonesian geography in terms of explicitly the islands is very poor. So is that the rest of the region, or just not specific parts?
So liberating Borneo, which is the island, yeah? And then the Dutch East Indies.
Yes.
If you look at the far left island where you have control of Aceh.
Yes. Oh, Sumatra, I see, and then the southern region.
My suggestion is that you take control of the rest of the island as well.
Okay. And then would that include Java and the islands in the east, or would those be different?
That would be different, or maybe for a different discussion. But if I'm up for suggestions, if you would rather do that.
We have an alternative we'd like to propose. Given you clearly have a lot of trust in the Philippines, I would like to negotiate an alternative here, where I think we both get what we want. We would suggest the incorporation of the non-Brunei region all underneath the Philippines, whereby they would also be not a direct subject of the Spanish Empire, but sign treaties, making sure that they would stay in our market for a period, and we could renegotiate very well those terms. The remaining regions of the Dutch East Indies would be transferred over to the governance specifically of the Philippines, if that's something the governor would wish, as we do feel their government is already established in Asia, and one we can work with very closely.
That is a fantastic idea. So let me just be very clear on this. So what you're suggesting is that the Dutch East Indies be relinquished from. Are you talking about the Dutch East Indies being under the control of the Philippines?
Correct.
Or are you talking about Brunei itself?
Brunei is separate. You want them independent? We have no issue with that. We're talking about the rest of the Dutch East Indies becoming regions under the control of the stable and capable government in Manila.
I think that would be I think that would be that's a very interesting proposition, and one that I think the Emperor would like very much. I understand that that will make the Dutch East Indies within the Spanish market, but as it stands, if it's between the Dutch and the Spanish, we would obviously rather see it within the Spanish market.
And so just to clarify, we've only wanted nothing but good relations. It's been a tragedy we've not had more trade in the past, nor a formal trade agreement, as I know previous generations, talks broke down with your government, and those I interest, as well as myself, do believe that was a mistake, and one we'd like to rectify and have closer economic ties with the Qing. So this market that would be created with the Philippines, having independent status, of course, would be trading heavily with your government, I hope, too.
Yeah, and we would be willing to open up and help and put towards that maybe some form of trade agreements between ourselves.
That's good to hear. It does bring one last question, though, which is that of the syndicate states of America.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
We already know you've received an envoy from Russia, so this is a conversation you've, I'm sure, already had very recently.
Yeah, of course, and it's a subject that it's been on everyone's minds recently, I believe. Let me tell you our situation with that. Basically, the whole communist and singulist thing towards the Emperor, this is a completely new form of governance that we've never encountered before. We still don't quite understand it and how it works. So we have been looking to outside powers to tell us that. So far, the responses have obviously been extremely negative towards it. So currently, we're being very wary, as we have told Chairman Kong Peng, who is the governor of the United Syndicalist States. We will not be moving forward with any more form of agreements or diplomatic maneuvers with them until we've established what the hell is going on over there, quite frankly. Looking at the pressure that we're receiving from Europe, it's highly likely that we're going to be cutting completely ties with them. But this isn't going to be a very quick process, as we have a lot of very strong.
You have to detach from the markets. We understand that.
Exactly, yeah. But obviously, we are receiving a lot of pressure from Europe, and we will listen.
If you might allow it, could I give you my government and my own opinion? I do not speak for the king here, but rather my self-opinion on the United States in this matter.
Of course.
I am not as religious a man as my grandfather nor my father. I still hold the faith of my ancestors. I am a practicing Catholic, but I'm much more modern than many, and I will be, I think, the first modern ruler Spain will ever have. But here I do see a great danger. My father speaks often of what he views as the end times. He has become very religious in his old age, and he views the threat of the international and global communism as the end times in my religion. I do not know if you know anything of the Christian faith. I do know a few practice it in your country, but very few. But our Bible and our religion speaks of a time when the earth will be cast asunder by the devil and those who follow him. I do not take that literally like many of my faiths, but I do think we could potentially be beginning to see the end times. There's a quote I have memorized from my Bible. If you allow me, I will give it to you and see if perhaps it has some similarity to the times here. This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own self, covetous, boasters, proud blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, of natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinently fierce, despisers of all that is good, of traitors, of the high-minded, and lovers of pleasures more than lovers of godliness. To me, I do not know if this is literal or not, but I do know well that what we are seeing here is nothing less than the end times, at least for the world that has existed up until now. It is an ideology very different than your own, Emperor, and with their values, you and your descendants would have no right to rule, those who support your government would have no right to power, and the people would rule supreme. And I know you rule over here, people, but I think, much like myself and my ancestors, you know the danger of when the common man is given too much right to decide for a nation.
Yes,
I've read your histories. I know of what happens when the commoners in your nation get ideas into their head.
It is true, and it is a concern for us forever, and forever will be. Yes, and this is why we've decided not to continue developing our relationship with the United Syndicalists. So, I heed your warning, and it is taken on board. And rest assured, I'm sure we will be taking action soon.
Very well. That is all I wish to say to you, and allow you to hear the opinion of myself and my nation on the matter. We will press it no further, and we're glad to hear that you are looking to detach from the American economy, as your nation is powerful and great, and those who trade with you gain much from it.
We appreciate your open and honesty and your counsel on this matter.
Regarding what we discussed before, though, so when would you wish for such an event and a war to take place with the Dutch?
I believe with your strong navy and my massive army, potentially, we're ready as soon as possible. Out of RP, I'll probably need to do a few posts first.
For sure. Out of RP, I also need to work a little bit more on getting my navy caught up to date and actually getting some coal.
Well then, let's take some time and tend to our various needs, but know that we are working on this goal for this operation together.
Very well.
The Philippines would like to inform the Spanish that I have just received emergent news from Manila that a communist revolution is brewing within our nation. We must send immediate telegram to Madrid for help.
You have a communist uprising in your country?
Yeah, it is. As I heard it right now from Manila, the situation is very bad, sir.
We are prepared to send troops. We would have a request of the Emperor. You are privy to this conversation. We would ask that you do provide diplomatic support here and not allow other powers to interfere in this matter before we can reach a treaty. I'm sure you agree that revolution of the commoners is something that cannot be allowed to stand.
Of course, absolutely. And
Good.
you will have our full military and diplomatic support in this matter.
That's good to hear. Then, Governor, I think we should probably end this meeting. You should get back to Manila. Know that I will send messages home, and the Spanish Navy will be dispatched in part, as well as a contingent of forces, to Asia to support your government against these abominable people.
Very well, sir. Hopefully the Spanish army comes as soon as possible, because the things are not looking good back home, sir.
You have our full support. I can assure you of that. Still yourself, Governor. It will get far worse from here.
Understood. May God help. So, see you, sir.
God help
I
us.
have to go back home.
Well, Your Majesty, I thank you for the audience. I will send word back to my father and my government, and we look forward to working together.
Indeed, thank you for your time. If you could also, if you speak to any of your European friends, rest assured that the Qing is not sitting on its laurels with the issue in America. We are making moves.
That's good to hear. We will let them know, and we'll send envoys.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. All right, we have a moment. This has been a wild game. I didn't expect this to go anywhere. Yeah, so the Philippines are getting a Council Republic revolt right now, and it's going to fire really quickly here. So let me make sure all my forces are ready to send troops. Also, I do apologize, everyone, for not reading chat. Today is just a really big one for RP, and I really try to not let my RP in these games slip by talking all the time if things are going on. I do feel bad about that. Like, in single player, I will try to always read everything, talk to everyone. I do feel bad about it, but in these games, I really feel as though I do a disservice to the quality and to the other players who put time into the roleplay if I'm just, like, going in and out. So I try to make sure I prioritize things. Okay, I do want to upgrade that. I don't know if we have the supplies for it. Mostly good. I do want to expand our navy too, but for the moment. Some of our naval base is not fully... I'm not too sure. I think we do have the money and supplies. Why are we losing from our investment pool? Fuck. Bear with me. We're at a very delicate stage of our economy too right now. Make sure everything publicly traded. I don't know why. Every time we've gone in and out, there keeps being these issues with the game where all my production methods keep changing. Didn't the Germany game get whacked by communism too? Yes, but that was much later, and that was a mechanic thing, and I also clicked the wrong button, so there was a lot of mistakes there. I would really like to switch to electricity. Don't think we can do that at this time. Make sure I have an interest in Asia too, in case it fires on him. I do. This is good. Art supplies. When I get really into the RP2, I always completely neglect our economy, so let's start to fix some of this. We can make a lot more groceries. Our quality of life is actually really high right now. Let's export sugar to everyone and their mother. I mean, we have a copious amount of luxury goods and high-quality goods, which is why our standard of living is so high, but we do want to get these prices up a little bit, because it is impacting profitability and wages. I would also like to pass wage subsidies. I think economically we're almost in a place we can do that. My god, we need more clothing. We need more everything. Alright, before we do more Diplo, I need to take a moment and fix our economy. Vic 3 mid and late game economy, you kind of just have to be staring at, and I'm not going to do that, but I do need to fix it when it gets bad like this. We've built everything else. What are the big goods that we're just missing completely? We need a bunch of arts. Art is very important too, by the way, guys. Many people overlook art and don't think it's important. It very much is. To get, like, every person has a wealth, because every pop is more or less simulated in this game, and they all are basically given a certain standard of living, a certain wealth, right? For your rich people, to get them from being like wealthy to really, really wealthy, they need access to high quality services, and art is what does that. It's very useful. Don't overlook it. What that means is that they get even more wealthier, and usually they can contribute more to your investment pool, so always make sure you do that. Okay, we'll start with a bunch of art to meet the demand there, and then we're gonna need a bunch more luxury clothing. We'll have to build ourselves. We'll need around 10 more. We're also, just a reminder, still completely out of labor. Sparks. Fuck. Sure, market access is good. It's not in the Blerick Islands. Let's upgrade that. Having a colonial empire is fun. Administering a colonial empire is not fun. I wish we could build in vassals. Okay, we're fine. Construction. We do a great exhibition. We're not going to do that. It's not the time. There's no one to really trade with. We'll do the Middle East. Turmoil, we can't really reduce without reform. Politically, we would probably start to make minor concessions, but we're going to stand strong on our big government principles until he dies. Wage subsidies might make sense. I'd like to go laissez-faire, but I think we'll get a revolt. I will try and do it again, though, and see what happens. Because it really does fit, like, the governmental structure who kind of has power at the moment. All these little ones. Okay. BM we still need more of. Not much, though. We're good with all the big things. Look at the economy again and see if we can get our trade routes balanced. Main thing is we just have an excess of goods we cannot export. We're also getting low on convoys. How bad is that? Do we actually need more? Yep, it's the convoys. I thought so. Just a reminder, guys, especially mid to late game, your game will tell you you have a surplus of convoys, and it's not going to be enough. To upgrade levels, especially later on, you will need way more convoys than you think you do. That's an important thing to remember. Let's see, we're gonna have 5 each. 2, 3. Build up that a bunch as well. Yeah, because we can't trade more because we need a bunch more convoys. Okay, we need to get more people off of basic jobs. I do want to keep some basic agriculture because that will get very bad if we're not careful. Trying to think what to do about our population crisis. We've almost cored regions of the Congo. That will help a little bit. Just need more people. That's the big thing. Right. We can decrease our dye plantations. At least a few of them. Reduce them by, like, we'll go with 4. We can't free up labor that we need right now. Reduction of radicals would be really big. We have to wait until later text to do that, though. Can we make a joint government? Alright, the population crisis is just going to kind of stay, I think. Yep. The communists are causing issues in our government right now. All of our groups are very unhappy. Some public health programs, I think. Because we need more people. So fucking badly. Do anything with the excess bureaucracy, but we'll want to keep it. Yeah, we need more people. Fucking hell. We could integrate the Reino Kingdom, but I've done no RP for it, so that doesn't really work. I guess we just have to work on raising the standard of living, because then... No, but we have closed borders, don't we? Let's look at migration attraction. Yeah, the problem is America's pulling in, like, the world's population again right now, so if we turn off our border laws, all of our people will go to America like everyone else's. Yep. Oh, yes. We can't do that. We need to get the rural folk happy again. That is really important. Are they marginalized? The role folk don't exist anymore? Oh, shit. Cheese, I already established that we're going to doing MD on the weekend slot later today. Someone, you could start that poll, but I'm still going to for sure do North Korea because I haven't done a Hoi campaign in a long time, and I've been promising to do that. We will continue with Game of Thrones CK3 on Wednesday, though. I do promise. Okay. Such a bad point economically. We could cut down on production of another major good, but they're also strategically important to us at this point. Could cut down a bit on government bureaucracy, actually. This may kick us in the ass later, but let's go for it, because we're not integrating any states right now anymore. We'll try this a little bit. I will keep a surplus of like 500. That'll free up some people. Oh, a little more than I wanted, but that'll work.
Greetings.
Hello, Ambassador.
We are here to inform the Spanish court that Russia recently made some negotiation with the Qing Empire, and they stated that they will never join the communist state of the United States in a case of a war. So with that, the Empire of Russia basically have its southern border, which is the largest border in the world, covered. So now we are ready to rethink our strategy against the US.
I mean, that is good to hear. We also have entered into negotiations with the Qing and are going to be working closer with them going into the future. But forgive me, Ambassador. But with the destruction of that conference, I think many nations are beginning to look for other options. What are you suggesting exactly?
Well, what I'm suggesting that we are willing to put our offer regarding Central Europe off the table, and we are willing to offer our full help if in the war with the United States, the Russian Empire would receive our former colony in Alaska, and of course the financial package that we discussed before.
You're not opposed to you getting land in this war, but I do wonder how difficult it would be to get the delegates who previously gathered back together again and working with your country after things. Do you have any ideas for how to bring all those parties back? I mean, many, I think, are just beginning to try and close borders and prepare.
Well, I think we can call for a similar conference, either in your country or in France or in Italy, maybe without of the Netherlands, because they did not seem very, very committed to our cause.
RP, the other player, had told me he was full and ready to go and fight the commies and stuff, and then the one today was just like, so funny. But yeah, we would support another conference as well. But I want to be very frank with you, Ambassador. I and my country put a lot of work into trying to bring the anti-communist countries together, and I don't really want to tarnish our diplomatic reputation again to gather everyone just to have your government torpedo the whole conference again. Do you have assurances to myself and my government that is not going to happen?
Of course, we can assure the Spanish crown, and yes, we can.
Have your word and that of your government?
Yes, you have the vouched person. They can promise you that, but sir, there are some things happening in Central Europe right now. And Germany is trying to take over Bohemia.
We are aware, and we would also like to talk to... This is another matter, is that we would suggest also approaching Germany for support, as they still are militaristic. We need to We worry greatly about that situation too, given that the trade unions and the German government are getting out of hand, which is why we need to act so quickly. You've delayed things by years here that we needed to have spent preparing, so this will be even more difficult than before. We need to set aside all of the Asian stuff. Central Asia. My gosh, Central European matters and focus on America. Like, if we don't do that, we don't get another chance at this. Already, this will be very difficult given how long we've waited. We've given the international years to prepare at this time, Ambassador.
Of course, we may talk about it, but right now I have to go to talk with Germany because this is completely unacceptable since Russia is guaranteeing the Bohemian lands and borders. So I have to discuss.
Well, how about this? When you're done prioritizing Central Europe, come let me know and we will call for another second Barcelona conference.
Of course, after this, we can do that.
Thank
you very much for your time, and let me go to the Germans. Thank you.
Thank you for yours. He's just gonna continue to prioritize Austria. I know what's gonna happen, but I will call another conference if he wants to actually do that. Okay. Rubber exports. US. US's GDP is just absolutely monstrous. I'm just racking my brain for what to do about the We did get laissez-faire capitalism. Wonderful. That is huge. So basically, private industry is taken over. As I said, roleplay-wise, our government is basically under the influence of the industrialists and capitalists and corporations and businesses. The heir to the throne is also a big proponent for corporatism. So they're just getting more and more power, and now they have almost direct control of all basically expansion of the Spanish economy. That is great. What it doesn't do is help us with the population crisis we have. We have to cut down on an industry. We could also remove all of our dye plantations and transition to synthetic dyes. Given we also have a huge surplus of fertilizer and sulfur, that wouldn't be the worst idea in the world, actually. Because dye plantations take up a lot of laborers. How many do we currently have employed in them? A lot. For example, if we removed all the ones in Akka, which are very profitable, we have a total of... That's not right. 51,000 people employed. That's not going to be a game changer, though. I will remove some of these. No, we can't anymore. Laissez-faire doesn't allow you to delete buildings, so we have to sit on what we've got. How's it going, Vambi? What's up, Floyd? Pinkerton? Anything with transportation. That raises quality of life a little bit, but quality of life to get more population is only useful if you can get migration. If you have a game where there's a country whose SOL is so ridiculously large, it's just eclipsing everyone, right? Because the US, Belgium, and Australia, they all just have crazy standards of living. Transportation, things like that don't do much. Because we can't compete for migration. So we have to sit on what we have. We only get either more people through population growth, through expansion, which we can't do because there's nowhere less to conquer, or through... No, we just gotta have to sit on our economy right now. There's nothing else we can really do. We'll upgrade our naval bases a little bit. Anywhere else we can actually expand. We can't outright declare war on any of these countries because they don't technically exist. There's that war, obviously, with the Dutch, but they're going to go to the Philippines, so we won't actually get more people, which is a problem. I may ask for us to get Northern Sumatra transferred for the population from the Philippines. I'm sure they'll be fine with it. Just because we could really need that contingent of like 1.5 million people. That'd be so big for us. Moving for basic transportation. That is true. But we need to go to, what's it called? Electric trains, which we don't have the tech for yet. I have RP'd my tech correctly this whole game, and I have not spammed universities. I haven't rushed literacy, so we are very behind on tech now. Because I have explicitly not done either of those. We're kind of just have to wait for that war, because there's no other places we can expand to in Asia. Nothing in the Middle East, nothing in Africa, nothing in the Americas. Maybe we just need to work on trying to get our government a little bit more stable. But that doesn't really fit what our leader would want to do, I would say. We could just shore up support. We could get the king to push out the industrialists from power, but RP-wise, that just doesn't make any sense. We're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Desire for wage subsidies. Why not? That's a basic law. Basic poorhouses have been around for hundreds of years. That's not a radical decision to take, so we can go for that. It will cost us a fair bit of money, but our government can afford it. How are our oil exports actually doing in terms of making us money? Not really worth it. I think we do have one route, though. Do we not? We don't. This is the roughest point of the game in multiplayer. Because your economy is just so stagnant. Should be exporting. Break that. Break that. What's up, Battlebird Balthus? Spain isn't a really rough place, I will say. We're not the worst, but we just can't contend with a lot of the major powers left in the world. Do some. That was an import route. God damn it. Coal is so desperate. Italy is continuing to import it from us with full tariffs. That is really rough on our economy. We could reduce services and free up some people, I think. Let me look at that. Yep. Doesn't free up a lot of people. It would free up, I think, a bit of coal. No. Going into electric street lights would actually do a lot for our coal issues. Do we have the people to afford it? And then coal itself, I believe. If we could power coal with oil, but we don't have that yet. A railroad accident in Catalonia only narrowly avoided heavy fatalities due to the quick thinking of a trained engineer who perished in the crash. Only a few people died, but the wreckage will still take some time to clear. It'll cost engines. We could transition to electric energy completely. It'd be a very ambitious and dangerous thing, though. Our economy would probably stagnate a lot in the middle. We're gonna do it. Fuck it. We'll do it bit by bit, though. I won't go completely totalist with this. Let's start by making Navarre lit by street lamps, and same with Catalonia. Which will, or should, make electricity valuable.
My king,
Hello there!
I wish to speak to you on the matter of labor in the colonial company.
It is a discussion I have been speaking with my government about for the last several months. What of it, Governor?
Well, as you know, both of us are strong landowners, and the strength extends to my government as well. Even though yours has been controlled by the industrialists, my government is more than half. More than half of it is in power from the landowners. All the other factions are disunited.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I spend my days listening to them and to their plight. And I know the actions in which I need to take, but I also know your government might not be very willing to accept it.
This is not the days of old, Governor. We do have laws banning slavery. It's unfortunate that those were forced on us by the disgusting government in Washington, but there was already a movement to push that out before then. You do know that, yes?
Of course, but in these days, the Americans, their influence only grows. You know of this. Even in this continent, this uncivilized lands, in the countries of Liberia and Ashanti, their influence only grows. At what point do we continue bending our knee to our biggest enemy?
We do not. I've done everything I can to stop the situation from getting to this point, and without allies, we will be in a very hard position. I am trying to understand what you're asking for here.
Well, I was simply attempting to seek your support to change the laws here.
And which laws might those be?
Sorry.
No worries.
What? Even those who hold debt are allowed to reign free. I simply come to speak with you to see the matter of slavery, but I understand you are limited by the
As I've said
industrialists.
before, Governor, I do apologize, but we are very stern on our laws now for
Of course.
For such things.
Of course. I will.
I do understand your plight, and we have the same in my own country, but this is one thing I cannot give to you, nor allow, for the stability of my government and for the empire.
Very well then. I will return to Fez, but know that if I've heard of the situation in the Philippines, and know that my men are ready if the revolt ever comes.
Very well. We hope it will not come to that, but we will fight there together if needed.
Thank you, my king.
Thank you, Governor.
May God have mercy upon us all.
We will need it.
I'm sorry if we intruded there, King. We will completely disregard anything we heard.
Of course.
King Alfonso.
What brings you to my court?
We have come to your court to seek diplomacy over the regards of Venezuela. We, as a Congress, have decided that they no longer fit our aspirations nor our cited agreement or goals in the past, and so we have seen it fit to remove them as a member of the Congress
Very well.
in relations to the Venezuelan occupation of Guyana. We have come seeking a potential diplomatic solution to this issue that then raises of the Spanish, shall we say, not interference. I'm trying to think of a much more friendlier
I would
sounding word. than
suggest you
interference,
do
but,
think about your words here very carefully, Ambassador.
Yes, I'm certainly I'm certainly trying to think of the best words, but to resolve the matters at hand, shall we say, anyway, the Venezuelan occupation of Guyana is one that we wish to mainly resolve. However, as it stands currently, the Venezuelan government is no longer regarded as a member of the Congress either, so they are not afforded
That is
the same
unfortunate to
protection
hear.
or consideration.
We obviously have no interest in breaking our relations with them after there have been very worrying suggestions that the Colombian government had talked about the subjugation and annexation of Venezuela. We hold our agreements with them as of high importance, as we have been signed treaties where we will protect them, and we do intend to honor them.
Well, we certainly admire the loyalty that you have to such agreements. However, we would say that the as it stands, the relationship between Venezuela and the South American Congress is not a good one, to say the least.
I understand that, but I would like details. Why exactly is that the case?
The South American Congress attended the Internationale.
We are
as a
well aware.
whole, and per the agreements that we made at the Internationale, their government is entirely opposed to all the ideals we wish to uphold, and that is not something that they are willing.
We do not negotiate with the Internationale, as you very well know. Nor do we honor the joke of the ideology that it stands for. We know you are a little bit more moderate in Brazil, which is why we were very surprised to see you in attendance. But if you were going to come here and quote the Internationale to us, well, I think you know well it's going to fall on ears that care nothing to hear such things.
Well, we were simply explaining our reasoning for the.
It is
the
rather
declining
unfortunate
relation.
because you are suggesting your sole reasoning for your hostility to Venezuela is simply that they choose not to fit the ideology of yourselves while doing
is not
nothing to
just
harm
that.
your own countries, right?
It is the occupation of Guyana as well, which we see as a member republic of the South American Republic as a whole.
Marquis, can it be released into a separate country?
Do you mean Venezuela and Guyana, or do you mean just
Guyana?
Well, in RP they're in like an
okay, yeah,
yeah,
sure.
it's like an integrated republic of the republics.
I see.
If you get what I mean? Yeah.
Yes, but I'm trying to understand. So you say that they're occupied. That the people there are under a government that they choose. You suggest that they do not fit the principles of the Internationale, something their government does not agree to, and nor does many others in the world. I'm trying to discern if there's any credible reason for your hostility to the Venezuelan government. For if they are doing something hostile to your nations, then we would very much wish to support you and help out. But I am still waiting to hear something that would suggest this.
Well, the South American Congress is overall a democracy. So, considering the majority of us are, even in the situation where you don't support the ideals of the Internationale, you surely can see a situation where if the South American Congress is mainly made up of Internationale observers and members, that if in a situation where we were to decide that those were the values we wish to uphold, if a member state was to not uphold them, we would be well within our right to have a vote and decide on whether they should be then extended membership to the Congress.
I see. So
then-
you do not feel as though they fit your values, and as a result, you have removed them from your Congress. That's reasonable. But is that the end of things? I mean, if you removed them, we're sad to hear that. But if you wish to force everyone to have the same values to be in it, then obviously Venezuela, which continues to maintain its autonomy from the values of the International, would not be welcome there.
Well, it's largely a matter of Guyana on our end. Colombia has their own issues. However, their ambassador could not be present at this moment, so I will not discuss their matters for them.
I see.
Just so I don't. get
Guyana
anything,
was brought under Venezuela's control through, I believe, was it diplomatic ways, or how did that come to pass?
Out of RP, they start with it. I'm
So
not entirely sure.
It has
beyond
been
that.
theirs for probably well over 100 years then. Then what reason do you
Um,
have that it should not be theirs?
Because the Republic of Guyana is an entirely integrated section and lays claim to them territories as well as the people within them.
This is a historical government that's existed previously then.
The Republic of Guyana was established well over a decade ago now, and before that was a.
Forgive me, I'm looking at my
more
maps here right now. Perhaps
ceremonial
my
type of-
cartographers have not updated. I will need to have them chastised if I'm wrong here. I'm looking at my map and I'm not seeing a Republic of Guyana. Do I need to chastise my cartographer, or do we have a misunderstanding?
It depends on what kind of map you're looking at. If you were to be looking at a sovereign state separate of.
Correct. Nation states are the only thing that define the world.
Well, if you were to look at an administrative map of South America, it would include indeed the republics, the member republics. It would include the Republic of
I see
Uruguay and-
Venezuela, which is a presidential republic. I see Brazil, which is a parliamentary republic. I see the remnants of French territories there. And then in the north, of course, I see the West Indies. I do not see this government of Guyana you're speaking of.
Well, your map should surely be updated then, as the Republic of Guyana is an integral part of the South
Oh,
American
is this the region you control in the north? Then I will have to update that. I assume it's incorrect to see that it is not independent.
Well, it's independent within the bounds of the South American Republic. We have a full constitution if you wish to read through it.
I understand, but they're still directly administered from Rio, as far as we're aware.
They're not. They are quite local. It's quite a decentralized system.
I hope it's not
participate in the
anarchism. You
democracy
are
of
still a
Rio.
parliamentary republic, are you not?
We are certainly, but it's a representative parliamentary democracy. They send representatives to our parliament, and
I understand,
they
but
can
legally
vote in
they're
national-
still within your borders. Do you dispute that? Because if so, I think that you would need to remove all remaining control that you have over that region, correct?
They are within our borders, but they are autonomous.
see. Well, maybe
point
that's the
is
same
that
for Venezuela. Perhaps Venezuela and Guyana is also autonomous within their own borders. What's the issue then?
We do not consider that to be the case. Venezuela, as far as we're aware, has been quite a centralized autocracy in our eyes. Of course.
Oh, they don't have elections there anymore.
By autocracy, I'm much more. I'm using it liberally, of course.
Well, you are a very liberal country these days. That is true.
Certainly, but the matter of Guyana is one that we staunchly believe is the Guyana.
I'm
the
just
entire
really
Guyana region.
having confusion. Perhaps I'm getting old. I don't know. It's been a while. But I am failing again to see. You speak of autonomous region within your country that, as far as I'm aware, is directly ruled by Rio. And then you suggest that there's no such thing as Venezuela. You say Venezuela is an autocracy. But unless I'm mistaken, they have elections there. You must understand my confusion here.
Well, when I said autocracy, I admit it was a little bit inaccurate. When I say autocracy, I say that as a social.
What do you
democrat,
define as autocracy then,
someone-
Ambassador?
I believe the autocracy is the well, there are multiple versions of autocracy. When I say autocracy in this, sorry, I just got a thingy. Okay.
No problem.
A very strange event I've never seen before. It just confused me.
Late game, I guess the most.
Yeah. But sorry. Trying to get back on track now.
You were
When I
explaining
say
to me the your
autocracy-
definition of autocracy.
When I say autocracy in this situation, in regards to Venezuela, I do not mean a political autocracy. What I mean is one of an economic autocracy, one led by the landowners and the church.
So you
This
you
is-
do not agree with the economic principles of Venezuela then? It's not a matter of political stature, it's a matter of their economy not being built around, I assume, collective ownership? That seems to define the international, does it not?
Well, at this time, the South American Republic itself does not have collective ownership. It's something we are progressing towards, maybe, depending.
So what
on
what
how our
manner of
elections go in the
economic
future.
stature do you want to see in Venezuela and in a region that does have elections?
We don't wish to push Venezuela to go in any direction. We're
I
just
see.
describing what we see,
Okay.
and what we see is not one that we believe the people of Guyana wish or will desire to live under. And at the end, the Republic of Guyana recognizes the entire region to be as their core territory, and as such, we wish to uphold that.
As far as I'm aware, the representatives of Guyana, underneath the government of Venezuela, are given voting rights and are currently very content. The standard of living is high in Venezuela. The people are wealthy. There is no general issue in the place. It is very well run. I'm, again, very much struggling to, I suppose, see this state as you are seeing it. But regardless, we've been talking about this for a while. What are you wanting done here, exactly? I do not have the right to force a region or a nation to simply, like, change its whole governing style. That would be tyranny, after all, would it not?
Well, certainly, but we would wish to discuss a. I mean, we're willing to purchase Venezuela and Guyana in some standard, but we.
Now,
wish
the
to
selling
discuss
of lands with the rights of the sovereign people to be represented, that would be autocratic and tyrannical. I could never do such a thing.
Well, I did not mean selling in the sense.
Are you suggesting I have the right to
European
sell the
standard of
people and the
selling.
lands of a region that
I
I
was-
hold no power in?
I was considering it more compensation that you could pass on to the Venezuelan government, as they do not seem to be awake.
You were
shall
talking
we
as if
say.
I have the right to give these people and these lands away. I do not. They are content with their government. I could send my forces, I suppose, to forcefully make them give up their lands and rights within a sovereign country and give them to you, but is that not against what you stand for, from what I have heard?
We are saying that we would simply wish to I'm trying to say the word. Compensate the government for the issues that are involved with, shall we say, the transferal of territories and population, as we did with the British in their transferal of British Guyana.
I'm afraid I am not a radical government, so we have standards here in Madrid, and as I said before, I do not have the right to... I mean, if you're asking to bribe me, myself, and my country to look away while you force a region to come under the control of someone they do not wish to be, I'm afraid I cannot agree to that, if that's what you're suggesting.
We're not trying to bribe you. We're trying to pass on a compensation in the way that the Venezuelan government appears to be quite asleep. So we cannot make much of a discussion or a discourse on the matter with them. We are merely wishing to have that diplomatic discourse with the
The Venezuelan government is currently, I believe, very content with their current situation. Out of RP, they do have a conservative government that is popular, and they do have standard of living. So, in RP, we will stand by our alliance with Venezuela if you're suggesting a war with them, so that I will not negotiate on. I will also not attack an allied country in order to force people who do not wish to have governmental change to do it. So again, I'm very confused about what exactly you're wanting here and what I can do for you, given I must maintain my own standards and values.
Well, our main purpose for this visit was to determine whether there was much ability to push a diplomatic solution for such a matter. It appears at this time that there might not be. We will, of course...
I will make it very clear, and while I do have you here, Ambassador, I must express my government's deep disappointment that our old friends in Rio have chosen to follow such radicalism like the Internationale. And I do wish to have clarification from your government, which is, does my nation, my allies, my colonies, should we fear a policy similar to the United Syndicalists the Fallen Eagle in the north, whereby you will take military action to force countries to change to your whim. Is that something I will need to fear and prepare for? Or do we still have reasonable negotiations whereby we can trade and maintain equal status? I have no issue with liberals, but I do have issue with extremists and communists who push their ideology through supposed revolution and through violence and through death.
The South American Republic does not stand for pushing ideology on others. However, we do stand for border integrity, and as we do consider the entire Republic of Guyana to be within our borders, we do push for the eventual whichever way it may be done, the reclamation of the entirety of Guyana.
Is it in my government's, should I then take it that my government, if we do not agree to what you're asking, which is me to forcefully give an ally's territory away to you, that we will face military action from South America?
We will not push any action against Spain directly if there is to be any action done. We do not wish to have any action at the end of the day. We very much prefer diplomatic discourse, as we've had with the British, as we attempted with the French. We only wish for diplomatic discourse.
Good, so I do not need to talk to my military high staff about the eventuality that there will be a direct invasion from you or the United Syndicalists alongside you against an ally. For again, we do not own that region, but we will stand by their government as we have signed an alliance in order to support them if they are invaded.
Well, we can state clear if there ever was, in the very unlikely event that there was a conflict, that the Americans would be unlikely to intervene unless it was already escalating. We hold a staunch policy of non-escalation, hence why we want to resist any military conflict as much as possible.
What are the circumstances that would require or necessitate military action from the South American Congress?
The South American Congress will consider this matter further with the Colombians, of course, and I cannot speak for them entirely, but the South American Republic would only consider conflict after a fierce discussion in the Senate. Again, I cannot authorize such a thing. This is
so there is certainly a solid likelihood that this may go in this direction then.
There's always a likelihood that any direction can be taken, so we cannot give any sort of answer. However, we can say that we will strive for diplomatic solutions more than anything, and that will be our goal, and it is our wish that we can diplomatically solve the issue at hand.
As will we. Ambassador, you remember well recent history. Spain does not take hostile action in the Americas. We have only been the subject of hostile action in the Americas in recent times. We stand by our allies as we do view our promises as sacred agreements, and we will stand with what we have spoken. We will not start a war with you, nor have we done it in over 100 years. If you wish to break this truce and to break our agreements, you can do so, if your ideology necessitates it, but you will not get it from us, and I do not seek war either.
Well, while we will still strive for diplomatic peace, diplomatic resolution, we would make it clear that from this point onward, the South American Congress will be considering Spain at the same level as the other European powers, and not quite as
we are sad to see that the radicals in your government have taken you down this path, but we cannot stop you, and I will pray for your soul and that of a nation who I once considered a friend.
Well, we thank you for your time, and we are sorry that this could not have a peaceful solution at this moment. We
are
will
sorry too.
Strive for further diplomatic resolution.
We are always open to diplomatic discussions, and we are always open to talks, but we will not throw away an ally out of convenience.
Well, we will take our leave then.
Greetings to the Spanish.
Hello there, Ambassador.
We talked with the French and the Italian, and we are ready to come back.
Very well. We shall host another conference then.
Out of technicality, is it your government who would like to host it, or Russian?
Oh, it would definitely be ours, because, I mean, after that, I just didn't have time. I had to go talk to other people. But we do it in Barcelona a second time, I assume.
Yep, that's perfect.
All right, let me change the channel name. The second Barcelona conference.
Right, I'm going to be AFK, grab some drinks, and be right back.
That's good. We are also at war, by the way. The Philippines civil war is happening. Be aware of that.
Alright, let me get the French here.
The French player is gonna not come to any more sessions apparently. So, oh yeah,
He's
what's up,
here.
Shit Tiger?
Shut
Yeah. Tiger, this is your last session, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of burnt out, or yeah, that's fair.
Well, it just in terms of being major, I'm okay, but it's just RP, and also since the summer is coming back, I need to be more present at the restaurant.
For sure. Yeah, we've been. This has been a very long campaign. I'm very much at my end of what I want to do too, but if people want to keep it going, we'll definitely do it.
Well, it just I wanted to make sure you have 1 week to find a new French
we can look
player,
around.
and also I wanted to make to be sure there is no issue with data.
You'll have to speak to the GCs about that. So that'd be John and Brock you'll want to talk to. That's it.
Yeah.
Because we do have a policy that you have to show up for all sessions as a major, but given this has been a 10 fucking session game, that's more in a gray area. So I'd recommend you DM them. But back in RP. Gentlemen, we are here for the second Berlin conference. I'm King Alfonso. Welcome once more. We met here, I believe, 4 years ago in a very different world than now. I'd like to give this opportunity to let the Russians speak first, given it was their country who makes this possible, but also necessary.
Thank you very much. After negotiating with the Qing Empire, we made a deal, or they promised us that they would never join the American or the communist side. And now we feel safe enough to conduct an aggressive and militaristic diplomacy against the United States. And we are willing to take off our proposal regarding Central Europe from the table for the sake of peace and prosperity in the continent. And we are ready to commit ourselves fully against the Red Menace in Washington.
Would you like to elaborate on what exactly that's going to entail for your government? As again, I think most nations are really unified in purpose here. It's a question of what your government is and is not willing to do.
Well, we are ready to join if a military conflict will break out between the United States and various European powers. Of course, we are ready to support our fellow conservative or not communist allies in Europe, fully with our military and our navy as well.
We would also like to thank the observer ambassador from the Qing, who was invited here at the bequest of myself and my government. They are simply observers, and we did invite them the chance to be here to listen in on these discussions, as it was communicated to me that they still do not understand ideological issues, nor the actions Europe intends to take. That being said, we would like to hear from the other powers then about how we move forward. Our old proposal was very dependent on economic stagnation as well as Russian debt. Are those both still the case for Gavin nations?
Well, Russia currently receiving incomes thanks to Slovakia joining our market and the end of Turkish war reparations. However, we are still in debt, but we feel like even though we have this level of debt, we can conduct an offensive war against against the Americans.
Out of RP, due to the I fucked up, I need to pay war reparation to Persia. So the next French player will receive, let's say 5 or 10 million in compensation.
You'll need to put that in an edit request, and we'll review it and put it through.
Well, it's the I that started the war, and I had to back.
No, I understand, but we can't agree to that here. You need to put it through a save edit request and go through the whole process.
Okay.
It's very likely that it will get accepted, but you just need to go through that process first, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, chaps, please continue.
Spain remains ready to take action, though I will remind everyone, this is exactly what I fear, that the difference in time has allowed the United States' economy to grow even massively larger, their navy larger, their allies larger, as well as conviction and solidarity with all of the Americas. I just walked away from a conference at a meeting where I will say, it's the most polite threat I've received in my life. I would say it was cute, if not the fact it would not result in many people dying, from the South American Congress, where they made it clear, due to their convictions and the articles enumerated at the international, that they will wish for lands in South America to meet their ideology, and war with Venezuela will happen. So there is a measure of solidarity that now exists in the Americas and in the international that was not present before. And I will be frank, we also should discuss the possibility of looking for other countries to cooperate with, as I do fear, given the sheer scale and number of radical countries on this world, that even if all of us prepared and fought together, we would still be facing a great Goliath, so to speak.
I'm curious what you guys' position on Germany is.
I would suggest that the observer from Scandinavia refrain from discussing Central Europe, as it is nothing but a topic of contention for the gathered delegates. How the fuck do I have all this infamy?
Could it be that the AI is doing scramble events?
Damn it, yeah. Anyway, back on topic. What do the other gathered delegates have to say about this?
The Italians do not quite know what we're going to do about this. It seems like the odds are far too much against us at this time.
They are. They were against us before, and they were well against us now, but what alternative do we have?
Well, according to reports of the Secret Service of Russia, the Okhrana, the Americans, just basically upgraded the whole their army. And they
Who did? I apologize.
The Americans.
Oh, yes, that is true.
Out of RP, the French monarchy is about to collapse because basically every interest group is now Republican.
France moment.
True.
So yeah, he will. The new player will have to deal with that.
I'll just do keep it on current topic on RP though. I mean, is it the case, gentlemen, that we are simply going to accept defeat, abandon a sacred struggle, and walk away to prepare for the end? I must say I was in a similar mindset last time we spoke, but recent talks have made me hopeful that there is a path forward for us, not an easy one. This is an existential conflict, gentlemen. We are living in the end times, so I hope you all share my perspective on this. but that does give us a sacred duty. I know Christianity and religion is not as prominent as it used to be in many nations in Europe, but I know for myself, it is the duty of those who hold faith in what is important to stand in the end times, even if it is against an overwhelming army of the devil.
The Italians agree with the Spanish. We must do something.
Yeah, but what can we do? The American naval superiority is unquestionable.
And indeed, even Brazil can go toe-to-toe with my navy. It is, as I said, this is why we are so disappointed that the last conference went nowhere.
The Italians believe that an invasion at this time is simply impossible due to the fact that the Americans have figured out how to dig holes that are very long.
Long holes will not protect them. It's their numbers that will be their advantage.
Indeed. That is also quite the concern.
Are there no chance to get the British on our side?
As far as I'm aware, out of RP, isn't he RPing as like a radical leftist government right now? With a monarchy?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Well, there is trade unions in his government as well.
Indeed.
France has once again the largest navy, but I don't know if it's more modernized than the US one.
I believe it's about similar. I will send my spies to check if the tech is similar. Yes, they do appear to have.
I mean, guys, I will say out of RP for a moment, like, there's nothing we can do. The communists got way too powerful, way too early. It's kind of ridiculous. But the way I would see this in my RP is that we are, like, this would be seen as the end times in all of our countries by us who are old aristocracy and be in all these countries. The speed of which this is developed is just insane. It's so early. This would be seen as, like, beyond cataclysmic. So regardless of whether or not we can win, I think most conservative governments would fight regardless, because they know, like, we all would understand we'll be either killed, right, or forced to have nothing if this goes further, right? So
the problem is he has trench infantry, so it's physically
I know
impossible.
they're ridiculously busted, but we got to take the mechanics up. Mechanically, the communist countries are so strong. Who gives a shit? Set that aside. Look at the RP. All of our countries would fight even with disadvantages, right?
All right, are we going for it?
I'm just saying, like, you got to set aside the mechanics. We'll never compete with it. We won't. So we got to just go pure RP here.
But the question is, when do we want to go with that? Because Russia is still in the middle of its program.
Out of RP, I recommend, like, we all start building economically up our militaries and stuff, and then next session, we would declare war probably in the beginning, and we could write RP in the week before next weekend about this. That'd be my proposal out of RP here.
Is not allowed to do this?
Is it worth having a discussion with the Mexicans potentially?
Mexico will fight with us. They're already going to.
Understood.
Alright, should the Netherlands be here or not?
No, you were not invited after last time.
Unfortunately, the Mexicans do not quite have the same army standard as the Europeans.
Yes, and
we may not, but we
guys,
should
out of RP for a moment, we are going to get
United States.
absolutely smashed in this war, but this game is kind of over due to this situation, as far as I see it at least. So I think it'd be fun and be realistic for all of our countries to kind of have the last stand of conservatism, right? That's how I see this. That's what I'm going to do. If you guys don't want to, that's completely fine, but that's where I'm at, like, mechanically and in RP.
Well, I see no reason why
Mexico
we should.
views the communist threat as a bastardization of human nature. We will fight till our end.
But why should we intervene until they not intervene?
Because that's the
again?
thing, like, and this is something I have had enormous frustration with, and I won't rant about this, but I will say, is that I think many players are just failing to understand how extreme, crazy, and beyond understanding these ideologies are, right? Because this cropped up in the 1880s and even earlier in the US, and right now it is still so early that I think many players are acting like, oh, communism's a bad thing, but it's whatever, because we're looking at it in a modern perspective. In this time, this would just be insanity, right? Like, we'd be looking at this and just be mind-boggled by what is happening.
Yeah, that's true.
Ideologically, right? Like, this is just the most insane timeline ever. It's been insane for years. People haven't treated it like that. That's fine, but like, I want to really reiterate here, this is just beyond crazy for all our countries, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So out of RP, what do you guys want to do here? Because we kind of almost need the out of RP talk, right, at this point.
So out of RP, if we do it at the beginning of the next session, that will give us time to research trench infantry, which will maybe give us a chance of winning.
You can't look at this like winning. You really can't. We're not going to win this, and we shouldn't even be approaching it in that context, I think, out of RP, right? We should be approaching this as RPing like what our countries would do in this situation. And given we haven't seen trench infantry used in wars, I don't know if we'd even like... I know I won't research it early because RP-wise, there's no war that's happened, which would suggest it's useful. My high command would see no reason to do it, right?
Yep, for me, it would take 8 years to research that.
Yeah. So even if we wanted to,
it
it's
would
not
take
going
me
to happen.
16. I don't even have like breach loading artillery, so we're losing either way.
Yeah.
But
so in that way, I think the
Mexico,
time
as
scale
it
thing
stands-
isn't really important, right?
Yeah, but do we
Mexico,
want
as
to
it
do
stands,
that?
is incredibly anti-communist. So we've been ready since the first.
Can't we just simulate this Cold War thing and
sorry?
Can't we just simulate this Cold War situation that we are all united against this communist threat? And
The problem is that so this campaign is likely to end within a few sessions anyway, because the game is unstable. Like, people are crashing constantly. The game is barely running.
And that's what I mean. We're at the point we kind of need to wrap up a lot of our stories, right? In many ways, like not right at this second, but that does need to be thought about. So that's why I've kind of proposed this situation at the very least.
John mentioned that he would likely end the campaign after the first big war that happens.
The way I see it, we do the final war. We're not going to win, but we make it interesting. We give the best fight we can against overwhelming odds, and it's kind of like, you know, the final stand, because that's what this is, right? This is, you remember early communism. It's not like the communism we perceive now, which is very weak and very diluted. OG communism in the Internationale, it was incredibly extreme in doctrine, incredibly absolute in doctrine, and incredibly militaristic. Like, anyone who is RPing the Internationale and isn't talking about just radical wars and stuff, which is why Brazil was doing good RP when they came to me and threatened me, like, they are going to fight every war possible. And we would know that. We would have had spies at the Internationale. We know the talkings of these governments and ideologies. We know that they're going to come for our colonies, other nations, and us, right? So, we know that they're militarized, because that's what the Internationale was. It was an international solidarity movement to spread the revolution, because it argues it needs to come for revolution, or, I mean, it varies, right? Communism's a very open thing. Leftist ideology is a very open thing. But this sort of period and how it's developed, it would be very radical in pushing its agenda, right? So...
Yes. Like, the first nation to go communist, every other nation will dogpile on them.
Correct.
I think this has been a very big learning curve for a lot of players in this game. In this regard.
It's good, because, I mean, like, I think in many ways for the health of our community and Vic games in the future, this game has been good. Because it's been very unrealistic, but it's been great because we've seen an extreme example of ideology being ignored, and that's useful because I think it makes everyone realize what it is now, and going forward, I think many more people will act a lot better in that regard, which is great. I also will say, I've been working with a mod team to develop a new mechanic to add to the mod. I don't know if it'll be there for the next game, probably not, but we're going to have a mechanical system in that causes issues for your country if you're not acting in line with your values and things like that too. So we're learning, we're changing things, we're improving it. But in terms of wrapping up all of our country's own stories right now, I mean, getting back to that, that's kind of where we're at. And given the state of what this is in reality, ideologically,
well,
what do y'all want to do?
Well, for Russia, it would be that I have to conquer all of Central Europe. That would be my angle, and that was always be.
We could go the route where everything breaks down, this conference fails, Russia invades Europe, the rest of us try and stand and hold together. We could go that route too.
I mean,
don't like that either.
I mean,
You know?
I still have my cores to conquer in Italy,
You're-
South Tyrol and Trieste.
Out of RP, the other route is at this conference, we could decide to just go total war in an alliance together and just like try and subsume as much of Europe as we can to grow stronger, which would be fairly warranted given the crisis, right? And then from there, try and get stronger to hold out and fight a war or something. That's another route.
Can we just right now say that this conference was successful and all of us embark on the West?
I would like to bring to the table bringing Germany as well.
No.
RP-wise, it makes no sense. They're too radical, and Russia would never work with them.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I think another war with Germany to force them to change radical governments, lose territory, and force them into our alliance if we want to go that route. That's doable, but we'd have to talk to the player. But trying to bring them in diplomatically wouldn't make any sense here.
Wait, since when does Germany have 700 brigades?
Yes, that's the other thing. He rapidly militarized. He just said, fuck the Treaty of Versailles.
Correct. Germany did just go break the World War I treaty, so there's that too.
Yes. Yeah, and out of RP, we agreed that because of the war in Bohemia was fucked up because of game mechanic reason, we will receive Austria instead, and Bohemia will become free again.
But we're still talking, we don't need to discuss all that stuff. We're talking majorly out of RP here, what route we want to go for the end of the game in terms of where we go. So let's we don't have to decisively decide right now, but I'd prefer this discussion stay there and we kind of decide what we want to do, if we want to work together, if we want to just all go and do our own things, how we want to approach the end game out of RP here. Because again, this is collaborative and all of us are so tied together right now and kind of the only non-communist countries left that are major powers that we probably should get on the same page here.
Well, I think we have to react if the Americans try to do anything against us, but I don't think that's where we should pursue to attack them.
So you think we would just hold out and then stay on our own and just build defenses kind of thing?
Yes, exactly. And if they try to do something against us, we will react. But
well, I will say conclusively though, out of RP, I already gave you this information here. I put it pretty clearly. The International is going to attack me, right? Because I will defend Venezuela when they're attacked by the International, and then I would be in war, and you don't have to protect me. Only France and Italy have agreements with me, but that will probably happen, I think, fairly soon from what they've said.
That's a tricky situation.
Yeah.
I mean, we will have a direct land border when that happens. The
You will get overrun, Schwab, out of RP. You will be capped probably within the first month of the war.
No, yeah, I'll die instantly, but
No, you got to see it from a different standpoint, all right? You've got two fronts, right? Then you've also got colonies, Liberia, but then you've also got your ability to navally invade.
We don't have the...
We do not. With their navy and the tech they have are sinks out of RP, all of our fleets will be sunk very quickly.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't think it was that bad.
Have you, if you haven't already, go look at the US's military techs. On land and sea, we will get destroyed. In RP, I'm going to talk all day about us building a navy to fight them, because that's what we would do. But out of RP, it will not do anything, to make that very clear.
Sorry, but you want to speak to John and see if we can do anything for game health?
No, I'm not against the situation going this way. I'm just trying to be very realistic out of RP with what we can and can't do and how this will go for all of us with our stories at the end, right? So I am personally not opposed to us just getting absolutely destroyed by the International, but we shouldn't be planning some great comeback story here, right? That's the thing.
So I think there's actually a chance I can hold Schlob's territory.
Oh,
I have a general with mountain combat expert, stalwart defender, and expert defensive strategist.
Yes, but if they sunk your convoys,
yep, you will get no supply, and that will be useless.
If they send a full force of the entire conscript army at me, of which they probably will, it's over.
No, they have 500 regular battalions. They won't into conscript.
Their economy will continue to be completely balanced. Well, all of ours, because to compete, we would probably have to conscript. We don't have the supplies for it, but even to hold, we need to do that.
Their GDP is actually dropping.
A little bit, yeah,
it was
that's true.
It was at 800 million before.
I mean, but look at their population. That's why they don't have any more exports they can do to anyone. Would be my guess. As I played the U.S. like before, and when you hit like a certain population, you struggle to be able to export goods and make them valuable. So your economy will really struggle.
So
I
can
could
we
be
just
wrong.
all agree to embargo the US right now?
I mean, we
I-
could.
If that make any sense?
I have.
Oh,
to
it would,
agree.
but yeah, I mean that's a good start, like RP wise. But again, out of RP again, like broad strokes, what are we going here? What route? That's what we kind of needed. Again, we've been here for a little while. What we need to hit here.
Ah, fuck.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. I really recommend everyone abandon any conception of winning, losing, holding. You need to look at this of like how is this going to end up being a fun end for your countries? Like where does this end fun for you? Where you can walk away like, you know, that was an interesting end, right? That's what we need to look at. What would make you happy with the ending in the sense that you feel like, although the story may have not resulted in your nation ending in a strong position or powerful or superpower, because, you know, it just doesn't happen, how would you walk away with this happy with your story? And how would you walk away happy with the ending for this game?
Well, if the United States focuses their navy on you, I could do some island hopping and be a bit of a trolling. So that's
Really, battle of Midway.
That
Oh
would be
my
fun for me.
Oh yeah, like last time where you just invaded California.
Just a random Andalusian fucking invasion of oh man, yeah, and then the Philippines coming in.
What's
Awesome.
going
trying to
on?
puppet Austria.
I invaded California, then Andalus came in, and then
Yeah, that was
marched
funny.
all the way to Texas. So yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
Oh yes.
Was very fun.
AI Germany's a dickhead.
They
It's
are
not
very
AI.
aggressive.
It's
No,
not
this is
AI.
is this a player?
Yeah.
Oh Jesus. I thought it was an AI.
Why is Brazil doing a customs union with Australia?
Wait, what's Moose doing? Why is he
It's
doing
the International Schlub.
No.
Wait, so are they just making one big customs union?
That's what the internet. Have you read about the International Schlub? Cheese?
Barely.
Fair.
Shy Tiger. You good,
Yes?
brother? You good, brother? I think World War II just broke out.
Where?
Germany's invading Austria and France.
Oh yeah, France.
Oh my God.
You are on Austria's
No.
side. Just declare neutrality.
There is Russia that will join as well.
I didn't even see this war happen.
No. What are you talking about, Shy Tiger?
Well, Embo, he told me that John pushed him to rush the fascist way, RP, because apparently he already thinks it's gonna be the last session.
Today?
I mean, it is his call.
I don't want to see. I don't want to say.
If this is the last session, we kind of need to know, because then I'm gonna just declare war on the International and say fuck it and let my nation die.
I don't believe it. I've not been told off anybody that in our GC chat that this is the last session.
Okay.
And also, I cannot join Austria in this diplomatic.
I also
thing.
cannot be due to where he declared I can't get an interest there, so I wouldn't be able to be involved in this war.
I have one, but
yeah.
So
yeah, that wouldn't make sense in RP because you don't like Austria because they have.
Let me talk with them.
I know.
Well, on the topic of where
No, I
I'd be
just-
satisfied, I'm satisfied with the counter revolution I've created, but.
I mean, in the RP, Spain at some point will start a war or get declared on by the International and will get subsumed. It's just a question of how and when, right? So I'm just trying to figure out what y'all want to do with things.
I'm surprised he didn't instantly do it to free me from your market.
True. RP wise, there's no way, but
like he would actually let this happen.
I
He threatened me already. He was like, "Yeah, if you join their market."
I believe
actually,
he may have gotten talked to from the GC about like not doing conflicts or something. I'm not too sure, but yeah, regardless.
I think in the It makes more sense for them to declare war on us, I think.
Yes.
They are just trying to do.
RP wise, they're stronger, and they would start a war. And I think that's what Venezuela is supposed to be. It's going to be World War Guyana. So you know.
God, that sounds awful.
Don't you want to fight a world war in the jungles of South America? Doesn't that sound fun? I'm not hearing enough excitement right now. I'm going to be honest.
I got a disease just hearing you say that, huh?
That just sounds like AIDS.
No. Don't you want like foot rot while you're fighting off millions of fucking communist Americans in the jungles of Brazil? Come on, who wouldn't want to fight that war, really?
We got dysentery just listening to you.
You know, I wouldn't be fighting in the jungles. I'd just be suffering.
True.
I'd just be dead. Wouldn't even be there. Just gone.
Once more time. One more time. I want to bring us back on topic. What do y'all want to do? This is a question for really your 3 countries, the big boys.
I want to wait for them to come to us.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait. Okay. So we'll all basically in RP more or less agree to like a defensive agreement at this meeting, right? Where we're all going to come to each other's aid, and we're just going to start preparing to be attacked by the international. Then is what we'll do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Sounds good.
Also, there is an issue. Apparently, I wasn't supposed to join the war against the Austrian war.
Yeah, you're in the war with Germany right now, aren't you, France?
But I don't know. He did a war goal against me, so no, I can't back down.
Because they are so fucking stupid. I told, oh my god, let's just move to them channel and talk about this, okay?
Gentlemen, although we are only here as an observer, we did also come with a proposal. And for our own nation, and as I'm sure you're aware, Asia proper was invaded by France a decade ago, and Daidam was put under the thumb of France. My proposal is that of this: if France is willing to completely release Daidam and also release the treaty port within Daidam, the Emperor, in his wisdom, seeing the way that things are going, would be willing to cut all treaties with the United Cynical States 10 years earlier than we legally should, and stop recognizing them as a nation. And also join in war efforts.
I am also out of RP. Another thing just happened. The Dutch just invaded a region my colonies are in. I've been expanding in. They're also radical communists now. I don't know why. So I would also realistically be starting a war with the Dutch right now in RP. There's no way that wouldn't happen. So do we want to move that forward too?
I mean, we can do that right now. We have the agreements.
Okay.
So.
And I also had an agreement with the Qing to start a war over Asia. So do we want to do that war right now? Because we got to let him know out of RP too.
Yeah, we can. What's he just done? Sorry.
He's. I'm not sure if it's just a colonial war, but the Dutch are. Did he stop the war? There was a war in the Congo where I thought he was taking land.
He did just stop the war. It keeps flip-flopping between trade unions and intelligentsia.
Yeah, his government just switched again. Okay. Okay, I don't even know. Never mind.
It just switched again and again. What the fuck?
Yeah. He's a pacifist too, so that's a little odd.
Anyway, there's the Emperor's proposal for assisting with the United Cynical States. Do with it as you will.
Okay. Jesus Christ. Oh man. Yeah. If we're going to attack the Dutch, I'm ready to do a sovereign strike as well, so.
Alright, was that it?
Yeah, out of RP, I don't know where to go. The Germany stuff, the international stuff. I know.
Can I get some?
I don't know what's happening on this.
Yeah.
But we're just wait facing right now.
I am going
Can I get
to
some?
tell my own way shot, I think.
I think I'm going to sit on my economy and just wait for the end his vibe. I mean, like, we've got a defensive agreement. When the war starts, we'll fight together. I think I'm just gonna work on min-maxing. Oh, not min-maxing. I apologize. Ooh, slip of the tongue there. Freudian slip. You know what I mean. Getting my fucking employment crisis figured out.
Someone hit record. Someone hit record. Someone hit record.
Well, there is a quote in staff chat that says, "Meta is for chads and RPs for cucks," and I stand by that. So anyway,
wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do till the end, I guess.
Can I get some economic assistance, please? I'm kind of in a lot of debt.
Yes, I will pay off your debt right now.
I could do it, Ham. I need to spend my money.
Sure, you can take that 10 million debt I don't need. So by all means.
I have 12 million in my treasury.
Bro, I've got 116 million.
Who's that?
You fucking really?
I have 116 million and nothing to do with it.
Fucking China, Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but don't
I'm
forget.
just making money. I cannot stop making money.
On the offside,
I have been
of that,
barely running a balance for like 100 years.
Yeah, but bro, I can't do anything militarily to anybody if you
That's
wanted
true.
to, so
yeah,
it doesn't matter. I've just got a high population. That's the only thing going for me.
That is fair.
I need an interest in the Philippines. Do the Philippines not have an interest in Iberia?
Probably not.
What?
I would hope so.
I don't want to end my interest in Greater Colombia because if that war starts, I want to be there.
Oh, I can declare some interests. Where do I need to declare an interest?
Iberia will work.
Okay, declaring interest in Iberia. Okay, it's getting declared. Oh man.
Oh yeah, your debt can't be that high. I have no idea how, but it's like
my boy.
You notice the socialists have like the highest standard of living, but I've had a higher standard of living under capitalism than I have socialism. My standard of living grew.
Could you like transfer me some cash as well? I really need it.
Yep.
Thanks.
I just don't. I haven't stopped making money this entire game.
I love capitalism.
Who doesn't, man? That's why we're all here.
That's why I must stop those commies. Oh man! Imagine if we actually win by some miracle. That would be hilarious.
You got space lasers? Did the Philippines develop a nuclear program by chance? Because then we might have a shot here.
We've got unbeatable will. We are very motivated.
If there's a Manhattan Project in Manila right now, I think we do have a shot.
Oh, I think fascism just started existing in my country.
This is the time it starts to show up. The radical ideologies do pop up at in-game like this.
I know. I just got an event about everybody becoming racist.
Is that what it said?
Literally, it was racist reactions to indigenous people.
I've been getting those all game, but I am Spain, to be fair. Out of curiosity, what are you guys' total investment pool right now in your buildings? What's like the total investment pool for your countries? I'm curious.
No money because I constantly am building private sectors.
So you have nothing in your investment pool?
No, because the capitalists are always building something.
I have 167 million.
The Mexican economy is the investment pool. I think you'll find.
And
my
the
interest
change.
in Iberia is declared. My interest
change.
in Iberia is...
You should be able to forgive his debt now, or I guess I could just do it.
I did it already.
That's
Sounds good.
Oh, feels so good. Also, can I stop paying so much taxes to the crown, please? I'm paying 50,000 in taxes to the crown. Hey. Positive balance.
All right, I think I'm gonna go hop back to my own VC and just kind of chill for the rest of the game.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at.
Oh. Might as well. Thank you, guys.
Of course. It was great role playing with you. And yep, wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, boys. I'm gonna level, and I'm gonna be honest. I'm pretty done. I don't know if we'll have another session. We may, and that's fine. I'll show up for it. I've committed to playing a major. I will be here. I'm gonna just be honest. I'm kind of done with things. I've felt this campaign that the ideologies have been done very poorly, and people have done amazing RP, but it's been that way. And I kind of just had immersion break ever since I got back. And like, there's been some fun stuff we've done at the end here for sure, and this has been a lot of fun, the ending. But like RP wise, what has happened is so cataclysmic. We're just gonna get subsumed by the International, and realistically, they declare war on us. Our tech is so far behind. Our economies are so far behind. That's just kind of it. So if there's a final war, we'll fight it. But otherwise, I'm kind of done with this campaign. I'm gonna be honest. So I'll just we'll work on our economy at the end. I'll actually be able to read chat if there's anyone still left over. But that's about where I'm at here. It's just I'm struggling to find immersion here in any way, which is rough. I don't normally get this bad. I usually can do something even in unrealistic situations, but I'm just like, what do you do in a situation like this where your government knows that they've got no chance left? I mean, that's my RP, right? Is the king is just like drinking his whole cellar dry in Madrid, preparing for the end of the world, which is what this is. I mean, I want to go out of RP here too. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, the communists aren't the good guys. We're not the good guys either. We're an autocratic monarchy. We're not good people, nor are our allies. But we are the normal type of government at a point like this, in that context, right? So, I don't know. Again, I just think my government is just preparing for the end times, stockpiling fucking canned food in the jungles of the Caribbean and the jungles of Africa, putting guns aside to survive the end times. And my king is preparing to get hung and just drinking himself to an early grave while the heir is busy partying his last days out. Like, that's how I see this for my RP in my country. He's a cocaine addict too. Never change, Hammurabae de Borbon, you beautiful bastard. Such an iconic leader. Fuck. I kind of wish I'd get to RP him. But beyond that, it's like the way I'm looking at this right now for aristocracy and for ruling powers and governments like this, it'd be like if we like heard nowadays that there's a meteor coming that will destroy the planet in a couple years. We don't know when it will hit, but it'll be soon. Everyone just be fucking off and enjoying their last days, right? And that's what it would be for our government, for our ruling leadership, which is who we're RPing at this moment. So there's just really not much to do beyond that. I mean, why would we go do diplomacy? Why would we try and make agreements? Why would we try and prepare for something which everyone would know is just going to lead to nothing, right? So yeah, where would our family exile themselves? I think they'd probably go try and hide in Central Africa, I guess. That they might die from disease. That's the thing, is there's nowhere to go to hide. There isn't. So much of the world went communist. The communists are so powerful, they're in every government at this point, that there's nowhere to go to run. So I don't think our royal family would probably even be preparing to go in exile, which is what I mean. The king knows he's going to get caught if he runs. He knows he's going to get executed because they're communist. Like, he will. And he's just drinking himself to death. Our heir also knows he probably won't die, won't survive. So he's just like doing lines of cocaine clearly and partying. So, yeah. I'm still here. The out of RP was pretty cool to listen to. For sure. What's up, Jay? AJ. The American war we fought with them got rolled back because America didn't understand why we created the customs union. So we rolled back that war to not have it happen to begin with, is what we ended up doing. And we got a little bit of money to repair our economies after the war. This, I think, is a good learning game. My hope of what will come out of this for the players and for the group in the Discord is people will actually start to think about ideology. They will start to think about the time scale of when ideology appears, right? Which is that, and it's been an issue in other games, not like this, which is that when, like, if radical fascism appeared, if radical communism appears, if radical ideology appears early on, there's that real politic that I saw in this game where people are like, well, yeah, this is an issue, but like we'll work with them or we'll ignore it, which is the main thing people did, which is ignore radical ideology, when that's just doesn't make any sense. And I've heard from players that they don't like that because like if they want to RP out like a communist timeline or narrative, they should have the ability to do so because it's their RP, which I disagree with. And that's a line I've always tried to draw on this server, which is that just because you RP well and have an interesting RP narrative, that doesn't mean you get to throw realism out of the way. And I think there's many people in these games who don't want to have realism very prominent in it. They want to do what they want. But I know there's also many who do, and I'm one of the ones who do. I have no interest in playing in a roleplay game without realism. I just don't. It's if I want to do that, I'll play the grand campaign, right? I'll play grand campaigns, because if I want to do things that are alternative and ideologies completely thrown out the window and you have a whole new system, grand campaigns are what do that for me. So I'll go play that, which is why I enjoy them. It's great. But if you go into a game, especially a roleplay one, where you're expecting the truths and things that are like the case in these times to be real, if that goes away, I struggle to enjoy it, right? So I don't know, but I hope what comes out of this is that people will keep this in mind, that we'll see more realistic RP in the future, we'll see a more realistic timeline for ideological change, and that the other games improve from this, because I really hope we don't get a repeat of this kind of thing in any direction. I mean, because it could have gone far right too, right? I mean, we saw that briefly in Denmark and Germany, where people were talking about RPing out, like fascism appearing really early on. Like Denmark had a whole narrative around that. And if that had taken off, it would have been the same thing. Like if Germany and Austria, Denmark, Scandinavia, and Italy had all gone far right fascist in like 1860 or 70, that also would have been cataclysmic, would have been crazy, would have been unrealistic, and would have had the same issue. So I just hope we see more balance. I do want to talk for a minute. One of the things I have been discussing a bit with the mod team, which will be hard to implement, the guy named Dinarke, he's one of the modders on our mod team, came up with this idea. I'll actually just show it briefly on stream because I think it's a cool idea. We actually have to do implementation, but I'll just show it briefly. Because I think it's a really cool concept for our games and for our mod. We just need to actually do it. Where did I put it? Where are you? I made a Google Doc for it a little while back. Find where I actually put it though. It's called the ideological purity system. This up really quickly. So yeah, one of our modders had an idea where I had been talking in the mod meeting about how we need a mechanical metric in order to have countries, whether they're players or AI, to accurately act in the interest of the ideology, and to have a system where if you bend your ideology to act against its interest of countries who are opposed to it, you can do it, but it has a cost and an effect, which it does, right? So for example, I'll just go over the document real quick. I don't know if I'll do much more in the game today. I'll show this document off and I'll always go back and do a bit of economy, so be warned about that. So I would rather talk a bit about this. So this is what we have. It's called the stress ideological purity. So the guy who had proposed it, Dinarka, he's played a lot of CK3, and what he proposed was that in CK3, if y'all have played it, there's a thing called a stress system, which is basically where in the game, if you have certain events and you do certain things that are against the character who you are playing, right? So if you're an ambitious character and you get a chance to take a title and you don't, it'll stress your character out. I think that's the most interesting feature added in CK3 because it adds a really realistic component to the people who would be under a lot of stress, right? Which are rulers. So it's got like a bar and it's got 3 levels, right? Where, let's see, where did they put it? Yeah, mental break. So there's 3 levels. There's no stress. There's first level stress, second level stress, third level stress, right? You can develop coping mechanisms or have events built around it that change your character for good, but mostly worse. And then if it gets really bad, you have a health penalty, you can die, you can get a heart attack. Like there's a straight up event where you get a heart attack at high stress, which makes sense because that's a real thing. What he suggested is we use the concept for the system in our mod and in our RP games and in Vic 3 to represent ideology. So what's called is the ideological purity system. So basically it functions like stress. There's 3 levels and you get more stress and you get what we call ideological break. And that goes up if you make actions with countries that don't fit your perspective. So the general write-up was, we need a system to properly reflect if a government is making choices that are in line with its ideological state. For example, a communist nation that makes an alliance with an autocratic monarchy will cause the people in government to have problems because they wouldn't support it, right? So the levels we've got, I made comparisons for. So at the first level, it's just the natural state of things. The population, the ruling class would view the government as being in line with what it represents. So a monarchy trading with monarchies, a monarchy making defensive alliances with other powers, for example. First level would be, they'd see like, just, it wouldn't reflect quite what the government's supposed to stand for. The example I gave is modern US foreign policy, right? Which is that if people bring up American foreign policy or like gun trading or weapons exports, many people don't like it. And it does cause a bit of distrust, right? In the US, many people, I think, distrust and dislike American foreign policy because it oftentimes doesn't represent the values you're supposed to hold, right? For many people, we've gotten so adjusted to it, it's not a big thing, but it does create a bit of a split and it does create issues for the government in trying to do things, right? In that many people don't feel it's reflecting. It varies in how it does this at certain times, but for most people, it's like this. But it's not going to make them just outright rebel against the government. It will cause nothing more than like protests and general distrust. The second level is just dramatically big agreements opposed to your ideology. So the example we used was the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, right? Where a communist state made an agreement with a fascist country in World War II, something which was incredibly unpopular in both countries at the time, right? People were very upset. And the only reason it didn't result in outright actions against the government is because Stalin had an iron grip over his country, of course, as did Hitler. If other countries had done it in a more balanced era with such polar ideologies, it would have gone very differently and would have had really radical consequences. And then the last is the Spanish Civil War, just in terms of effect, right? Where you're making actions which are just so opposed to your government and are so nonsensical, and you're ignoring ideology, where there's no way the populace would stand for anymore, and you get civil wars and stuff. So what we want to do with this mechanic is put it into our mod and put it into our games to provide a mechanical incentive and effect of your actions. So let's say that I am Communist Spain, right? And I make a defensive agreement with fascist France. You would get an event where you get a huge amount of ideological break, and you'd probably go over a level, or you just get a lot of it, right? So it allows over time different events and different actions by your government and your states and your diplomacy to affect your government. It'll cause things, I think what we discussed here, or like migration push from your country if it gets bad, turmoil effects, slower enactment time on things, revolution progress, reduced authority, and then level 3 would be outright civil war. There were some events for it. So that's kind of one of the ideas we came up with that I do want to try and work on and implement for these games going forward. I'm not a great modder, but I do view our mod as important enough to these games, and I enjoy it enough that I do a little bit on it with the team. So hopefully we'll get that implemented, because I think that would do a lot to stop situations like this, right? Where we are able to prevent extreme and nonsensical agreements being made between countries, or at least if you're going to bend the realism of your ideology with other countries that don't fit it, there are consequences, because it does happen in history. Governments make pragmatic decisions and do things with countries who are very opposed to themselves and who people don't like. But if it's in their interest, they will sometimes do it because there's a valid cause. It just needs to have actual consequence. And in our games, it doesn't. Like, we can make a rule all day long that says you will RP out your ideology in a realistic manner, but where do we draw the line? Where do we enforce it, etc.? So this is a little bit of a better tool for it. So I'll stop ranting about this. I'm just trying to, I don't know, kind of contemplating the game state, I suppose, more than anything else right now. I think this would go a long way to help out with our country and stuff like that. Let me get my Twitch back up too. We don't much longer for the game. Twitch homepage. Where's my dashboard? I deleted it somehow. There we go. I may stop stream here pretty soon too, because I think we're kind of just about done. I'm just about done. So. But yeah, I do think things like that would be a good way, because with these games, it's such a delicate state. I mean, roleplay, I think the reason why in Paradox and many games, multiplayer is only really done in a casual or a competitive sense, because it's the only one that's really easily doable without almost changing the state of the game itself and having a very rigorous system. I hope and like to think that we've managed to build a good organizational system with our Discord and with our roleplay community, in the sense that we have a good staff team who overviews events, who puts in place rules, and who starts to make the games work in the balanced sense. But it almost requires, in some way, game changes, because Paradox develops these games very haphazardly, right? and they wait a while and they charge money, and they don't prioritize multiplayer stability. So it's almost like we have to do it, which is why we made this mod and why I hope we'll do other mods in the future for the other games. It's just, roleplay is so much harder, I think, to build and to have multiplayer run in. Like, imagine trying to run like a Hoi 4 pre-host for roleplay, right? You couldn't do it. Whereas you can do one for like a comp game easily enough, because mechanically it's very obvious what you can and can't do. Whereas in roleplay, stories and like what you do of your country is so much more of a gray area. So it is almost required to have mechanics like this. It's just a pain to do it, and it takes time and it takes learning. But looking back on things, I think we have come so far with these games. I mean, I think back to when I first started organizing the server, and when I first started really organizing roleplay games, because I thought they were so cool. I watched the guys like Tommy K, and I was like, this is amazing. Because on like a Tommy K YouTube video, you see the good parts, you don't see the bullshit, and you know, he has to deal with all the bullshit of his games that anyone does who run these. And then I tried to build it and realized how quickly, how difficult organizationally these are to get into a balanced place. And we have come so far. I mean, with like how we balance, with the people who put time in, you know, besides playing these games to make them run. Like, many of y'all don't see it, by the way, and I won't rant about this too much, but I do think it deserves stating. These games we run for roleplay, they only happen because at this point we have a very large staff team. We have in the Discord, I think 43 staff members, which is a lot. But to organize this game, to keep track of everything, to keep it balanced, to enforce rules, to make things run well, it takes so many people. I used to do it by myself for a period or with a couple people. I'll never do that again. If that ever becomes the case, I'm done, because it is so much fucking work. And we have come a long way. It's so great we have people doing that, but it also does feel like there's so much more that needs to be done to get to a proper place in some ways. It's a culture thing too. I mean, we've got great players now who realize all this and who always improve, but I don't know. Just thinking about things at this point. Socialism should start with a communist manifesto and slowly build to government to take them over in communism. History starts slow, but at the end, the old powers and the new powers have the army and ships to fight. They do. But you got to remember, communism does happen quickly and radically, right? There's a Lenin quote, years happen in weeks, which is true. Communism will grow in a country, it'll grow in popularity very slowly, bit by bit, and then it will happen overnight, because revolutions is the argument for Marx. They are the revolutions for most people who support communist values and various other very far left ideologies. Not entirely, there's different types, but it does tend to suggest that radical, very quick reform revolution take place, right, in the establishment of a post-revolution government. So that does need to happen. It needs more of a balance in our own games, especially in Vic 3, given this game primarily covers the Victorian age, where things like communism and fascism, socialism, corporatism, all manner of these very new ideologies do begin to appear, but they don't really come into a lot of prominence until the very end, right? Which is why if you look at the technology for society, rightly so, the devs put a lot of the more radical things at the end, right? It'll be your tier 4 and your tier 5 tests for a lot of things. I would argue socialism and anarchism should actually even be tier 4, maybe 5, but this stuff happens later. So it's such a difficult thing to try and get a game who start with, like, we start all these games now with 60 fucking players, right? To get 60 players to keep these things in mind and to balance it out and to have the patience to play, you know, 8 to 12 sessions of a game, which is incredible, but also keep these things in mind. And I do feel as though it will take mechanical additions to really get that to where it needs to be. I don't think, even with a good culture, even with the great staff team we have, that is entirely doable without. Anyway, I'm reflecting. Has America slaughtered half their population for true communist RP? No, they actually reformed into it. If you have an old world system of old world powers, but if you have a communist part of the government that wants a communist government, and you start to pass a law to do so, the old world party would get super radical and cause a revolution. If the government backs down, the old world powers wouldn't be as mad, but still angry, and communists would be evolutionary. Yep. I thought after this, you was going to play North Korea for Vic 3, after Vic 3. I was planning to do it, I'll be honest. I don't know. I'm a little burnt out, a little tired right now after today's game. When did I start doing what? The addition to the mod? Like the mechanic I was talking about? That we started in the last week or so. Yeah, the game doesn't do ideology really well. And that's the thing is, I think a lot of the blame isn't on anything other than the game itself. Vic 3 I really like. It's got insane potential. I think it's got some of the most interesting and unique mechanics in any strategy game ever made besides CK3, because their culture and religious system is fantastic. But there's been no balancing, and there's been no effort into add like proper realism into like things like ideology. I think ideology is the #1 thing lacking in Vic 3, and I'm very sad to say I do think that is because it will be a paid feature in the future, right? In order to get ideologies done interestingly with a mechanic and balanced, we will probably have to pay for a DLC. I think it'll probably be the one after the investment one next year, and then the one after that. I don't know. We'll see. But I do think that's what it will take, unfortunately. RP in general, I've been doing it for, I think, almost a year and a half now. I really started getting into RP the fall of, like, not last year, but the year before. So going on 2 years, I think around a year and a half really actively. Proper standards of RP, probably a little like a year and a half, attempting to. It's been a lot. I'm very glad I did it. Like, it's been so cool to see this, like, be created. It's cool to, like, start something and see it turn into something else. And it's not like a, you know, a huge thing. But to have an interest in something and to see it, like, get better and turn into something many other people like, it's been very cool. It also has been a long time. Kind of forget it's been a year and a half already. I'm really glad I did it. I've enjoyed it so much. The games we've done have been incredible. Despite all of the logistical problems, all the effort it takes to run these games, they've been so fun to play in and to see other people enjoy. And we are in a good place, but it also is like, it's like when you climb a mountain and you know you're really high, and then you see, you know, just so much more mountain ahead, and that's fine, but I don't know. All right, I'm not focusing on the game. Let's send troops to hold. We don't have the convoys to get people there. They are traveling to the front. We're fine. Every game I've ever done in RP, well, there's been a lot of good ones. Ooh, there's a lot of good ones. My Ethiopia Millennium Dawn one was one of my favorite. That was such a fun game, even with that crazy ending we had. I really enjoyed that one. I know my answer to that. CK3, our mega campaign last year. The mega campaign we did last year, even though it didn't make it out of CK3 because of all the issues, I loved the roleplay as House Horatia, the Olympics we had, like having all of Europe RP'd and stuff like that. That I think was probably my favorite roleplay game I've ever been in. It had so many issues, but I also enjoyed it so much. And then those wars we fought with the Seljuks. Did any of you all watch last year's Grand Campaign, the one we did? We had those like giant cataclysmic wars, because I was role-playing a minor house in the Byzantine Empire, and there was one other player in it. Charles was role-playing as another Byzantine house. And there was a player role-playing as like the Western Seljuks, who he established his own kingdom. And that whole game, it was so brutal. It was just role-play between us and the Seljuks, constantly fighting religious great wars over kingdoms. And Anatolia kept going like back and forth between us. And we lost almost all of Anatolia at one point. And one of my favorite moments I've ever had in gaming was when the Seljuks and that player were sieging out the gates of Constantinople. It would have been the first time Constantinople had ever fallen to heathens. And I remember me and Charles brought our armies up in RP, and we managed to defeat them against overwhelming odds at the gates of Constantinople. That was such an incredible moment. I will, like that, man, that was so fun. And just like the exhilaration of like all the RP building up to it, and like finally stopping them invading at the gates of Constantinople. Like that was so fucking good. I really wish that Grand Campaign had been able to continue, but due to the metagaming, we had to stop it. By the way, I will talk about in a moment. We're doing a Grand Campaign this year. I don't think I've talked about that on stream yet, have I? Let me prop that up. We've got some time here. Let me open up our information page. I just announced it this week. I just got done with a lot of the preparations. I'm the main GC. I've been organizing this year's Grand Campaign. It'll be very different. A big reason for that being I will have a lot of help. And, there were like 4 of us who did it last year. But this year we've got like 10 people who are helping out organize it, which is going to be really cool. I will send a link so y'all can peruse if you would like. This is on our roleplay website. So yeah, we're doing the Grand Campaign again this year, which I am really hopeful it will go better and well. We've got so many good RPers I think who are going to play in this. But it's also such a momentous undertaking. It's so hard to do. Yeah, you will need tier 5 to play in it in our server. But we do have the grand campaign fully announced. I set up the resource for it. The main in CK3, we're gonna have different like areas of it, like different, so like we can balance people all over Europe really quickly, really easily, and things like that. We're gonna be like using a house system too with some things. We're bringing back the Olympics, and we're gonna make a wiki this time as well, which we've just started on. So we have got a few people who will be completely cataloging all the major houses, all the major events, battles, etc. of the grand campaign. So that'll be starting in July, by the way. So yeah, I think last year's was my favorite out of any RP game I've done in multiplayer, and I'm hoping this one will go very well too. You can get a key for EU4 for like $2 on Kingwin, just heads up. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. I'm hoping that goes well. We'll see. Again, just so difficult to organize and so long. And I do worry about like player retention and player turnout, right? Because that's 6 months at the very least. I've spoken with a few people, I think, who don't fully realize how big it's good, like how long it will take. One game a weekend, 4-hour games. You're looking at, I'd say, I think 6 months of us playing it. It'll be the better part of a year. So, but if it's stable, if players do a good job, if we maintain standards on it and it goes well, it will be incredible. I mean, truly, truly incredible, I think. So sometimes you have to be willing to attempt things that are overwhelmingly difficult due to the fact that if they succeed, it's just worthwhile. And I do believe that grand campaigns could be the most fun in roleplay multiplayer in all of Paradox if we do it well. And I think it will be incredible for everyone involved, including us and including y'all who will watch it. I hope. I actually have to focus on the map again. I'm just literally ranting and thinking right now instead of playing the game. We are losing ground everywhere. Alrighty. Yeah, that's the question though. The question is, can we do it? And I think we can, but it'll take a lot of work. And it will be rough. But y'all won't see that. So that's fine. I'm waiting for the new MD game to play Saudi Arabia or Thailand. True. We also are bringing back Millennium Dawn. I will stream that. I'll be playing a very small country though. What's up, Demon? The new MD campaign? No, I don't think so. I was going to do MD today. Just to clarify, I think I'm not going to. I'll be honest, I want to speak a bit with the Victory GCs after this game. And I also kind of want to go just chill. This game has very much burnt me out on roleplay and streaming today. I'll be honest. And I don't think I would start that campaign very well. Like, I could do it, and y'all could watch it, but it won't be as entertaining. Because I'm just not... I'm in a very... I don't know. I'm not in the roleplay mindset right now, and I don't know if I could get back into that. So I don't think it'd be as entertaining for y'all. So in that case, I should probably just end the stream here to make that very clear too, because I don't think much will happen for the remainder of the game today. If you did wait around for MD, I do apologize if there was anyone waiting for that. I will get that going this week. We will be doing that on weekends. I'll do a long one next weekend, I promise. I will be doing the MD campaigns later on. It'll be in the evening for me, so I can stream much longer, because normally I have stuff to do in the evening, but I set aside that time, so it may be like 5 or 6 hour streams too. So we'll do North Korea starting next weekend after games. So yeah, I think I'll stream here. I've been ranting. I don't think it'll be entertaining for y'all if I do that right now, so I'm not going to. And I do want to make sure quality is good. Not just for streaming, but I mean, I make everything into videos, right? And if I'm just like full of just here thinking about like, you know, RP organization and games, it's not going to be as good. It really won't. So I do think that's important. So we'll end here. Let's go see if there's anyone to raid. There is not. So we'll end here. Wednesday, House Stain. We are going to try and get the Lord Paramountcy finally and Dorn, and we'll be getting kind of close to the conclusion of that campaign. Next Saturday morning, we'll do the grand campaign, and it'll be the actual pirate one. In the afternoon, we'll continue the CK3 game as the Habsburgs. Next Sunday afternoon, I don't know if we'll have another Vic game. We might. We'll see. And if not, if there's no Vic game next week, I'll do like a long, just whole evening stream of MD. If not, I'll do the MD game after. We are doing North Korea for that. That will happen. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed this stream a little bit. I think the beginning of it was really fun. So I think it was a good place to kind of end a lot of our stuff. And then, yeah, hope everyone has a good rest of their weekend. And I will see y'all very soon.